Maybe. Hey, there it is. Hey there, comic friends. I'm Travis, and we're back with the Comic Book Roundtable. And with me tonight, I have Mike Sergeant America and Brandon Mackhammer. How's it going, guys?
Good. We don't have our books again, so no, I'm joking.
Yeah. We're just going to stand here for 2 hours and stare at the screen while you stare at the screen at us. That'll be fun. No, got books. Good week of books, at least it was for me. So let's jump right into talking about those books. What we're going to do is we're going to do our typical thing, talk about this week's worth of books, and then after we're done talking about this week's, we'll just kind of throw out the other books that we've read the last 2 weeks that maybe we're interested in talking about, since how we have been missing in action for a few weeks. So Marvel, let's talk Marvel books.
The Weird World.
It is.
Yeah. Once again, this is a book I think I could see double, triple dipping into with Del Mundo's art alone, but it has got the storyline that if you don't need a flowing arc, I think is amazing, because it is a little erratic, but if you allow it to be, it is just pure entertainment.
I don't think I could have worded it any better than that. I like how they've even brought like obscure characters in it, like Crystar. Like, I don't know if a lot of people even know who Crystar is, but I remember him having a series a while back. I was like, I know of that character. Like, that was pretty interesting. Gosh, a lot of things happen. So our main character, Akron or whatever, it gets hunted down by like this, I forget his name, but some like bounty hunter that Morgan Le Fay hired, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of this book, and where he ends up is very interesting. I also like, oh, maybe I don't like it. It kind of bothers me a little bit how some books, they like, it's sort of like, oh, what's that book? Travis was talking about a book where like Constantine, where they take swearing away and they just put asterisks and stuff.
Oh, right.
Here they basically replace God or maybe a curse word with Doom. They always use Doom for everything. So at the end of this issue, he's like in this. I don't want to spoil where he is, but it's pretty awesome. And he's like, "Where the Doom am I?" I'm like, why do you have to always use Doom as a swear word or a curse word?
Right.
That always bothers me. Like Spider-Man 2099 does the same thing, where he's like, where the glitch is, like what the glitch, or it's like, ugh.
Right. It's like we don't all know, you know?
Yeah.
Come on.
If anybody knows, Jim Scully is the Slayer in this, and it's the guy they have hunting down Akron. I presume that's a reference to something else, so it's, it is amazing. The colorist, I definitely would add on, because trying to eliminate the glare. It jumps from like red to a nice soft white.
You want me to try to show it? Maybe
yeah, if you can do that a little bit better than I can. My light source is still something I'm working on.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you flip it, there's like 2 pages. It gets into just a pure white, kind of as they're free falling.
Oh yeah, this one.
Yeah, it's things like that the colorist just perfectly adds to the work that Del Mundo has done. I know we've mentioned, Jason Aaron is either a genius or as lucky as can be, because this story is fun, but I don't know how you would explain it to an artist on what you want. So I have to think a lot of it is Del Mundo's amazing ability that just kind of, you either are describing it to a T or it's just perfect art.
That's an interesting question. I know Mike Del Mundo is coming to a con near me. It's really tough to meet them because the artist alley is so crammed. It's annoying,
Right.
but if I get a chance to see him, that's an interesting question.
Right.
Yeah. How much is he informing the page versus Aaron? Yeah. Because I'm always curious about that. Because there's so much lately. It seems like there's a lot of extra energy around. Who's how much weight is creation is the artist versus the writer when it comes to the actual telling the story and describing what's there and whatnot. And I know it's different for every artist, but I'd love to know every creative team that I read books for, who made the choice to do that? How much of that is the artist throwing their own personality into whatever's going on, and how much of it is specifically the writer is like, I have to have, this green dinosaur in this page doing this thing, kind of thing. So, kind of stuff. So I hear that this story is going to move over into an ongoing. Is that correct?
I believe, yeah, with Black Knight.
Yeah, and of course, nobody on the creative team is going to be on that book, is my understanding, though, which is a bummer, right? With as awesome as this book is sounding, too.
I remember Frank Thierry's writing the ongoing. I forget who's doing the art on it, on Black Knight. I forget.
And that seems pretty important with how much it feels like, from what you guys are talking about in my reading issue number 1, how important the art is to the story. That feels like a pretty heavy weight if you're going from this to that, and
like, I don't know how connected this miniseries is going to be to that ongoing. All I know is that series is taking place on that world. That's all I really know. I don't know if they're connected.
Oh, okay.
But
which I think is weird too, because then why are they taking Akron, who is the ongoing, and putting the Black Knight in there? It just seems like, are they doing it just because Black Knight is supposed to be a bigger name than Akron?
Could be. Or they went, oh, hey, what character do you want to throw out here as a weird thing for a Secret World spinoff, and we'll put this character that we want to do a story on in there towards the end of it, so I can pass the baton to another main character. I don't know. Sucker you guys that are reading it in singles into going into that one, right? I don't know.
Yeah. The one other great thing I did think in this comic that I really loved is there's these little jokes that, as somebody who likes the series gets, it's just Akron is given the map from Chrysler, and as he opens it up, he looks at us and he's just like, what madness is it? The map does not match his map at all. He doesn't recognize anything or any of the symbols on there. And it's like, this is what this is, and this is what that is. And he goes, I haven't met any of these people. He goes, how can this be? And he goes, well, it's Weird World. It just keeps changing. Yeah, and the idea is that it's supposed to help you the maps help you get to where you want to be, even though they don't accurately tell where you are.
Great.
Yes.
Like I said, I'm picking it up in trade only because I screwed up. I didn't jump on it to pre-order it with the way I get my comics, and the local chain store either is not getting them, or the few they're getting are getting picked up off the shelf right away, and I don't have the ability to make it there until the day after Comic Book Wednesday. So, yeah.
Now we got to make up more Weird World puns to tick off Christina.
There you go. There you go. Well, cool. Any other Marvel books? The Marvel book I picked up this week is The Last Days of Loki. This is issue number 17, the final issue. I loved it. I thought it was a great final issue. I have loved basically all 17 issues of this run. I know some people haven't cared for it. I really like it. I think that if you really liked Kieran Gillian's and his treatment of the Kid Loki character in the Young Avengers and whatnot, I think you would like this, because this is a natural progression. The writers and artists on this book took that information, instead of just doing their own thing, they took that information and let that inform the character as they move forward telling this series. And basically 17 issues of exploring what does it mean to be yourself, to try and be true to yourself, and trying to be true to yourself in the face of other people trying to put their preconceived what you are on you, is kind of what the book is about, at least for me. And I think it did a really great job of that. It was entertaining. It was interesting. I love the way this ends. In this book, Loki thwarts the end of the Marvel Universe for himself, anyway. because as long as he's around, he can keep telling stories, and if he can keep telling stories, it can't end basically. And it ends with him literally. It's a white void all around him and Verdi, his best friend Verdi, who's currently a ghost. And it ends with him basically taking a piece of chalk and drawing a door in the white void and opening it up, and above the door he wrote next, and him opening the door and go, let's go, we're moving on, and I just really liked it. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna miss the character. I'll miss Loki. He's been a lot of fun, and I haven't seen anything that says he's gonna be anywhere else, and I can't imagine they're gonna use him like he's been used by Kieran Gilliam before this, and now Ewing and Garbett. So, but it was cool, and I'm glad it got to run its course as far as the whole ending of the Marvel Universe and it's starting up again. They got to tell their own story to end it out, so that was pretty cool. I think next week is the last Magneto book, I think too, maybe. So, as these all my Marvel books tie up and disappear basically, but I really enjoyed it.
I don't think he will be the same as he is in that comic book, but they have hinted that he will be in the Mighty Thor with Jane Foster as Thor.
Oh, well, that could be cool depending on how they use him. That'd be another reason for me to look at checking that out. Yeah, because he's a fun character, and he'd be interesting in that. I think in that setting with the way she is, yeah. and whatnot. So. Now that book, that Thor book, is that still going to be done by? Is Aaron Rodgers still going to write that?
To the best of my knowledge, I believe it's the same team as the original Thor. Yeah, and because with the male
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh yeah.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, sorry.
Jason Aaron.
Yes.
Okay then.
With Odinson not being in the book and then possibly either being in the new Hulk book or something else, I mean, he's going to definitely appear in someone else's book.
Yeah.
Just maybe not to the talent and extent that he was in your book.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. Any other Marvel books you want to talk about?
What was it?
Marvel news? Anything rumbling out there of...
TV-wise, they keep saying that they might start this Mockingbird and her husband from the TV show S.H.I.E.L.D. They originally talked about it, but S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought needed them to get the ratings they're getting. But they keep saying there's going to be a spin-off, so I don't know if it'll be like Agent Carter, where they're going to fill it in the middle of the break, or if it'll be on a different night.
Yeah, because I've seen contradictory information on that as to whether or not that's going to happen or not, kind of a thing. I'd be way more inclined to watch that than to watch the S.H.I.E.L.D. show.
Yeah. And I also know for the Netflix Luke Cage, they're starting to cast people. So, and I think that's very positive that they've gotten it going, because if they want to kick it out every 6 months, it sounds like they need to be on everything, get it going. So.
Yeah.
There's yet another Marvel series coming out. Another Inhumans book called Inhumans. I know Charles Soule's writing that. I forget who's doing the art on that one too, because I'm terrible like that.
Yeah, I plan on. I decided I did my order. I decided I'm going to pick that up, even though issue number 1 is one of those damn $5 books.
You're picking up the Uncanny Inhumans. I know that. There's another one too.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, it's also Charles Soule, and it's about a bunch of Inhuman characters who I'm not sure about, but they're being led by Crystal, which I think is Medusa's sister.
Yeah, and was briefly married to Johnny Storm, and
so.
Oh, I remember seeing something about that because people were having a fit over her haircut, because she used to have this kind of crazy, Kirby haircut with the barrettes kind of thing, and they, now she's all short-haired and.
I think she's leading a bunch of younger Inhumans that I don't know too much about. So I'm like, oh great, another team book, and that I'm kind of interested in. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just.
There's too much.
I'm interested in them, but my brain also says don't get them because you're going to be woefully disappointed when the first event hits, because all those team books the first ones get roped up into the event books, right? And their storylines get bogged down by editorial. I don't know. So you're right. I'm not getting that one, and I don't plan on getting that one,
Yeah,
which I'm going to regret. I know because they'll make Soul tie the two together at some point.
Probably.
I'm only going to get half the story, and
Right. I
you're
know.
listening to me complain about Marvel again. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Marvel also announced cosplay variants. Have you seen them?
No,
Yes.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's basically just cosplayers in costume, just as as the variant cover. Um, Millie Akers and I were talking at our private hangout yesterday, and she was asking me, I wonder what sort of like how the cosplayers are getting paid at all, and like how much are they getting paid? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like that's a really interesting question though.
Yeah, I'd be curious too. I would guess that maybe some of them might get paid because I know some of them are quasi-professional. I mean, there are cosplayers who get paid to go to cons, to be part, to be part of that draw. So I know there's an economy there, and so the question is, why do you do it? Do you do it because, like a lot of cosplayers, you just want to be seen? You want to look at my awesome costume, and that what a perfect place to do it at, to be on the cover of, if I dress like, Thor, to be Thor on the cover of Thor would be pretty damn awesome, right?
Yeah.
But they're making money off of you then. So yeah, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I know one of the cosplayers is Yaya Han, and she is a very professional cosplayer. So
Sure.
I'm like, I figured she want a little bit of money back. I have no idea. I don't know.
But then again,
question.
I could see people bringing up comics of Thor with your photo on them, and now you charge signing each individual copy. And that may be where you get your money back out of it.
Yeah, if you want to be one of them. See, here's my thing. My thing is, if I was one of them, I would charge something, because just like all the freelancers and whatever, don't get suckered into the, you just do this because your payment's going to be the exposure.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting screwed. If it's your hard work and you put hard work in making that costume, right?
Yeah.
And to look as close as you can to be picked to be on that, get paid. That's my opinion. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm too mercenary, but yeah, you just. I don't agree with free internships too, where you're not getting paid but you're working your ass off. So, at any rate, that is an interesting question. No, I haven't seen those. The last variant cover thing I heard about was the animal ones. So
Yeah. I won't be picking up any of the variants because I'm just not a variant guy. But I just thought it was an interesting question to ask.
Does it not feel like we're starting to grasp at weird stuff for variant covers now at this point? For both companies, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems like they're always doing monthly sort of things. Like Marvel's got the dog one and the cosplay
Right.
one. And,
Right, and the hip hop covers, and DC
Yeah.
seems to have one out every month now. I appreciate the DC one. At least it's the same cover price as the others are. It's just your choice as to which one you want. But I do see from the independent companies' standpoint that it's awfully hard for them to compete for shelf space. And if a comic book store has to dedicate twice the shelf space to have a variant cover and the regular cover sitting on the shelf, then how many Image books don't make it on the shelf? How many Dark Horses? Is there ever a place for Oni Press or Boom Studio or IDW? Are they just, are they completely pushed off the, off the shelf? Which clearly is a marketing ploy, right? If only my product is on the newsstand, then I'm the only person that's getting sales.
My shop puts any variant that doesn't check its retail price the same as the regular cover behind them, so they don't really take up any more space than it normally would. But yeah, I agree. I know not all shops do that. That's interesting.
Yeah, so because I started hearing more and more of the independent people kind of complain about it, and some of those independent comics are basically stating, look, we could do variants too, we're not going to, because we don't want to create, we don't want to be taking up that space too. And I don't know if that's a good road to take or not, but I guess I appreciate the thought that they're thinking of that. But it's getting to the point now to where most Image books now have,
Yeah.
well, actually most of them have variant covers. It seems like an A and a B, if nothing else, right? So, yeah,
A lot of the big ones do, yeah.
yeah. Okay, anything else you want to talk about Marvel-wise?
Don't think so.
Okay, let's move on to DC. What DC books did we read? What do we want to talk about?
Well, I got two.
Okay.
I don't know which one you want. Let's talk about Secret Six, I guess.
Okay, Secret Six.
Because I know all three of us read this one.
Yeah.
The inconsistent artist still bothers me every issue.
Without doubt.
It really bugs the hell out of me. The first page, I mean, can that page be any more Gail Simone?
Yep. That's the first thing I thought of too, and I opened up. I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, if you didn't know who wrote this, if you had if you've read anything else of hers, it's like that's so. Yeah.
That's so Simone.
Yep. Exactly.
You know. Go ahead.
A lot of this issue felt a lot more like a Gail Simone book than some of the prior. To me, the prior two or three.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, I wasn't really digging this issue until the big plot twist, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then I got back into the story. I don't know what it was with this issue. I just was like, kind of, okay, this is okay. And then the plot twist kind of just took me by surprise, and I was like, whoa, okay. But
I feel some of that is because of the pacing. It's been weird because it seems to be we're jumping forward, then we're jumping back, and because we don't know. It isn't a traditional arc that we've seen. It's tough to know where we're at in it. I mean, we're issue number 5, but I don't know. I mean, it feels like this arc could end the next one, and then something totally new could start again. And I think that's what it's been throwing me off, is I'm not feeling like I'm going with the story. I feel like I'm just getting dragged behind it.
Mm-hmm. Because last issue happened before where the current time is at.
Yeah.
I think you're right in that muddied the waters for this one. They're having this barbecue. When is that barbecue taking place? Is that barbecue taking place before or after they got into it with the people that are working for Mockingbird? I mean, when did that, until you see that group of people, until you see, Scandal and them having the conversation with Mockingbird, you don't know when this barbecue happened. I mean, to me anyway, I was like, you're right. I mean, it all kind of just all muddies the water. The whole back half, the whole first half of the book it's muddied. It's like I don't know for sure. It's told strangely. There's bits and pieces about the book that I like. I like the characters that are in it, even though I still feel like this cast of characters was created as a shadow to the originals that were there. I still don't feel like they're holding their own as their own roles. It still feels like, to some degree, and maybe that's just because of my fondness for the original, that it still feels like to some degree the cast is kind of a shadow of that. And then, now suddenly the old cast is kind of in the book, and it feels like that originally that was never a plan, but then after DC kind of changed their attitudes on how hard and fast they were going to be with their continuity and what was in the DC universe and what wasn't, and now suddenly we can have these people back. So, we saw them again in this comic. I really figured they were gone. We wouldn't see them again, but Scandal and Ragdoll and them show back up in this issue. Now I worry more and more that they're going to get further worked into the book.
And you feel that sort of forced into it?
Well, I don't know if it's forced, but I think it's why not have just done that in the first place? Why not given us the original cast in the first place? Are we now? How many of this? If it's the Secret Six and it's supposed to be built around 6 characters, not that they can't make it more than that, obviously, and just because the title is that. But are we going to suddenly lose a bunch of these people that were part of the original cast? So, okay, people don't really care for, I don't know, Porcelain. Let's get rid of her, or them. I don't know. Can't remember what terminology I want to use for a binary character. And put in one of the older cast. let's get rid of the ventriloquist because Ragdoll clearly is a better creepy, fun character than Freddy the dummy is. At least in my opinion. They're both creepy, but for whatever reason, Ragdoll is a comfortable creepy I can laugh with, whereas Freddy's just a pervy kind of creepy that, yeah, he needs to be thrown in the woodshed or whatever. But that's my concern still with the book, because it isn't, to me, it still doesn't feel like the book has a voice other than, oh, here's a bunch of misfits. I did like the twist that's in this. We find out who supposedly Mockingbird is.
Right.
That could be interesting. I don't know.
The one character I always thought was misplaced in this whole thing. He just didn't fit in with the rest of the cast. Was Big Shot from the very beginning.
Sure.
And so that twist, having the twist that's around him, made sense. I think.
Right.
But who it was shocking, to be honest. I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, I like it, but it also feels out of character for the person who is Mockingbird to be acting the way they're acting. To me,
True.
it feels like that. I mean, there was nothing. I don't know how spoiler I want to be about this. Usually, I don't care. I don't know why I'm walking around it so much. I mean, him locking him in a box and all that stuff. That's nothing. I mean, where was the riddle? I'll ask.
Yeah.
Where was the riddle in any of this?
Right.
So why would he move? I mean, I understand you lost the diamond, and that's all important, but why would he fundamentally move that far from what, to the best of my knowledge, in every interpretation of that character, his core self is to Riddle?
Right. I agree
So,
with you. It doesn't
so I don't
feel
know.
like his traditional self. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Travis. I mean, I forgot that the New 52 restarted the continuity, or restarted the whole thing, because as I was reading this, we had all these new characters, and when they restarted Batman and Alfred was in there, and all the Robins were supposed to be included, so that when we got to the Secret Six, Catman was the only one they included from the original, and I was thinking this is a continuation, not a retelling.
Yeah, but it's
Because
a
I
retell.
felt,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to be starting, so I don't understand why they didn't, like you say, use all the same characters or more of them if they were going to add them in.
Yeah.
I enjoy these new characters, but it did seem like with the ventriloquist, I don't know if it was purposely done, but they tried to. It looked like they always were not doing her face until she was like eating the hot dog and she was talking. Like there were people that would block her face, or it would be at an angle that you'd always see behind her. So I don't know if there was some implication to that or why it was being done that way. And the only reason I knew where we were at in the storyline was when they go to fight each other, Catman and Big Shot. There was the dog there, and only because that I'd reread all these that I remembered what the pit bull was there for. So.
Right.
I've enjoyed it, but I'm always walking the line. Am I enjoying it out of nostalgia, or am I enjoying this writing? And it's been tough. I felt a lot more comfortable with the art, switching from the one artist to the next, compared to I was like the first time. I really feel that they're getting a closer style to each other.
Yeah, and I don't know what the art duties are going forward in the book. I don't know.
I think Eaglesham's supposed to stay on from now. I hope.
Okay. I mean, I saw that the latest issue that I ordered that comes out in October, I want to say, is the order I ordered. He's doing the art for that issue. I'm hanging with the book for now. I don't think it's great. I wouldn't recommend it particularly to anybody. My favorite characters in it are Ventriloquist and Porcelain. I'm the most intrigued and entertained by them right now. Of course, they were hardly in the book this issue, so historically, I really like Black Alice. I don't know what I'm going to think of her for here, but and price usually doesn't matter a whole lot to me, but it is kind of a superficial way for me to cut books off and not. If this book wasn't a $2.99 book, if it was bumped up to the $3.99. It would make it very much closer to a book that I would drop, because I don't think it's really solid. but I like the stuff that's in it, if that
Yep.
makes sense. I like the
Yeah.
characters. I like the potential of what could be there. I'll support it for now and hope that it matures into something that's going to be great. Because there are, like I said, Gail's on the book. This is the type of book I think she can do really great work in because she has in the past. So I hope, it stays around long enough to reach that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else want to talk about?
Was that your only DC, Mike?
No, Bizarro was my other one.
Hoorah!
Hoorah! uh, I mean, we've talked about it. This is issue number 3. The first two, I mean, it felt like they've probably written and drawn the entire series because it seems to be solid. It seems to be telling the exact same thing. It seems to be running hard on all the same levels all the way through it. I did like the guest appearance from the other artist. I believe this was probably one of them,
Yeah.
the body.
Yeah.
Little changes like that even add so much to this book. And normally I don't like the over-the-top cartoon Bizarro, but this was, I don't know. I don't know if it's a sense of intelligence that they added to it or what, but it's going to make me cry to know that this is ending in 3 more issues.
Yeah. It's a funny book. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got silly, stupid little gags in it. For me, it's fun to read Bizarro say everything backwards, everything the opposite of what he means. The story's fairly simple in each one of these. Each one is kind of a one-shot, and the end of one issue, they land in a mess. They go through the mess through the issue, and at the end of it, they come out the other side landing in whatever's going to be the next, whatever kind of thing in it. Jonah Hex is in this one. The ghost of Jonah Hex actually is in this one. I don't know. It's just fun. I don't know that I'm going to be upset that this ends up being done at 6 issues, but I'm going to have fun with the 6 issues while it's coming out. If they choose to put out another one later on with these people doing it, I would certainly pick that up too. It is a family favorite at the house. Everybody likes saying "Boorah," so that's become a new thing around my house anyway to say that. But just a lot of fun, and you're right. The guest, the guest artist that tends to pop into the pages to do certain pages. Gabriel Ba, I think it is, that does a page in this, which I just think is great. To have them in a more standard superhero comic book, I think is funny, just because that's not their gag, not their gig normally. So that's kind of fun and whatnot. But yeah, just an amusing, entertaining, goofy read. So
Even the little things like the joke with Jimmy lost his watch and the Riddler. Well, the Riddler stole it.
right.
And he just pushes the watch. You're like, I wonder what this does, and instantly you could just see part of Superman behind him.
Yeah, because his watch, the watch, it's the watch that he uses as his signal for Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I wonder what this is. Like, after he pushes the button, and the next panel you can see Superman behind him. It's like, oh crap. Yeah.
So just so many pieces of humor in there. It's great.
Yeah. It's definitely a cute read, for sure. For sure. Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
Issue number 3. What do we think?
It was awesome. This is probably my favorite DC book right now, to be honest. And I don't know the best way to try to pimp it out to people, but more people should be reading that book.
It's got lots of surprises in it. I mean, genuine. Oh, okay. And quite honestly, I'm old. I've read a lot of superhero comic books. It takes a little bit to catch me flat-footed. So I really like it. I like the story they're telling with with Martian Manhunter.
I think you and I both were going into this with kind of low sort of standards.
Sure. Because I mean, I was like, they could make it. Martian Manhunter's characters I really like, but you could really screw him up too, or or whatever, and I don't think they have. I think they've got an interesting idea going. I love the characters that are in it.
The art's amazing too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Burroughs is a solid superhero artist. I just really think he does. He does facial expressions really well. He does action really well. So that was kind of a thing that had me interested in the book in the first place, because I knew he was going to be on art. So I thought, well, at least the art's going to be decent while I'm reading it, you know. And the story that's in here is cool too. I mean, in this issue in particular, it felt to me like there were a number of twists. About the time you went, yeah. It just kept going on. You know, it's like we had a couple different characters show up in this, and you just, you know, the mask come off kind of a thing as to who these people are, and then it's like the implications of, okay, if that's the case, what does that all mean? You know, they kind of, I mean, if you're a purist, they're messing to some degree with the known history of Martian Manhunter and supposedly represents, in the fact that he's supposedly the last Martian, and in here it's definitely implied that's not the case. That he is something else, that maybe he didn't even know he was that until maybe more recently. Or the question is, how long has this Splinter Cell thing been going on? Is Mr. Biscuits and stuff like that, is that a new thing? Or since Martian Manhunter has been on Earth, has those things always been there because he had some sense it was going to happen and was trying to fight it off early or something? It's going to be really cool to find out. Yeah, definitely more people should be reading the book. Like I said, it looks gorgeous. I
just love how, like, next issue, what? So
yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's the tagline for the next issue, because it really does end on a kind of, you thought you had all the surprises out of the way, and then at the very end you get yet another one. It's like, really, wow. And like I said, Mr. Biscuits continues to be a wonderful character, and the girl that's running around with Mr. Biscuits is hilarious too. So yeah, just great all around. Good superhero comic book with some interesting stuff going in it. And is this the one? I can't remember. Gotta look at some pages real quick here. I can't remember if this one. Yeah, it's not. It's something else. I'll talk about it later on. But yeah, still really cool. I think, you know, there's big ugly monsters in it.
And the cover's done by
this is the one I was going to say. It's done. Yes, the cover's done by the interior artist.
All right.
So what you're seeing there, you know, is what you're going to get on the inside, and you really will get some of that kind of mutated looking. What I was going to say is even though I really love the art, I really love the art style, even Ed Burroughs and his wonderful art cannot make Wonder Woman's ugly-ass new costume look good. Just saying. It is ugly. It is. My daughter is down here on the other computer doing stuff, but she heard me say Wonder Woman ugly-ass costume, so I'm showing it to her.
That needs some help.
She just said it needs some help, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Say now I wish Luke was here so I can scold him for picking up Wonder Woman 42.
I know. I was really bummed that Luke couldn't make it tonight because he picked up an issue of Wonder Woman, and we have to correct him on that. Gotta make sure no one buys the damn thing, so they change the creative team.
You're gonna interrogate him. The good thing is David Finch wasn't on that book, but still, we're gonna have to interrogate him and be like, why? Why would you do this?
Yeah. I hear that's the second issue he's picked up of it too, so don't know.
Is that outfit only in her own book, or is it also in the JLA book?
I would guess it's in the JLA book also. I know it's in this book. I know it's in her book. I know it's in the Superman Wonder Woman book. So I'm assuming that costume is universally,
all right,
across the board. So I don't know. I hate it. It is ugly. And like I said, even good artists can't make it look good. So.
My camera's doing the same thing it was doing yesterday. It just shuts off randomly.
Well, we'll let you fix it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Martian Manhunter? Other than everybody should pick it up?
Not really. I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah.
And you would say issue to issue, it seems to be in a very good style. That issue to issue works out well.
Yes.
Right.
Pacing on it is really good. It keeps you intrigued throughout the book. makes you want to go, okay, what's the next one going to be? This one, after some crazy reveals in this one, it ends with literally it's the caption next issue, what? Big, because it ends with you just kind of going, because like I said, there's these little surprises, throughout the whole end of the book, and you think, okay, well, wow, that's all really cool and whatnot, and then you run into one more character and you get a surprise with him that makes you going, what? So yeah,
All right.
yeah. I think it's good. Good. Did you get any other DC books, Mike?
No, that was it. My two.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to Black Canary. I don't know if Brandon is getting Black Canary or not. You reading Black Canary? You're not. Okay. Absolutely loved it. I'll say that. It continues to be the same as far as being this kind of rock and roll, karate romp. This one is particularly really good because it bounces back and forth between them being on stage performing and them getting to the stage to perform. And it does a wonderful job of, there's some great panels of like her singing, and she'll be, jumping and singing with a microphone and kind of a martial arts kind of a kick. And then the next panel, it shows her actually in a fight using that kick to kick somebody in the face, kind of stuff. So there's some great stuff as far as that goes. The rest of the band's getting more, maybe not embracing it, but realizing that they're going to be dogged by this stuff that's after them, so they're taking it on and they're actually performing themselves. And there's some excitement in that. We get interaction between Diana Lance, and her husband in this issue, which actually was really good. I was kind of dreading that. It was the one part of this whole thing I was hoping they would never bring back up. They bring it up. They address it pretty decently in this. They explain some stuff that I didn't know about their relationship. The fact that, I guess when she thought he died, he kind of did die. So when he comes back, he's missing huge chunks of his memory. So he literally does not even remember her. I mean, he's seen pictures. He's heard other people talk about her. So he has some feelings for her in the sense that, oh, I used to really love this woman, but I don't kind of know who she is now. But he's a decent enough human being that he kind of respects that and stuff. So there's some interaction between them that's good and kind of needed. I think they're doing a good job of kind of cleaning up the mess that was created with the New 52 and how they kind of did her history. They kind of add that in here and I think do a good job of cleaning it up. But and colored amazingly. I think Lou Ridge does the coloring. He's a pretty amazing colorist. He was coloring things like Deadly Class and some other stuff like that. That other things I've talked a lot about colors with. So he uses lots of tones where the whole panel is kind of a one color kind of a tone that I really enjoy also. I just really dig this whole Black Canary as a rock and roller while she's doing the other stuff that she's doing. And then I like Amy Wu. Amy Wu does a great job of panel layouts, of action, of personality. Little things that I don't think a lot of artists would even think about. Like in this case, this is the keyboardist here. She's going to shoot this black monster that's crawling into the back of the trailer because there's some alien thing after this little kid that plays in the band. She pulls her, she's got big long bangs that hang in her face. This shot of her, for anybody who's ever had long hair, of holding her hair out of her face so she could take the shot. How many artists draw stuff like that? I think that's just thoughtfulness of probably a lady who has long hair thinking about what I might need to do if I was in this situation and actually putting it in the comic. And I think that's something that makes the comic that much more interesting, is those kinds of panels, that kind of character work about what's going on. It might be a silly thing to a lot of people. To me, that's cool stuff. That's stuff that makes it different from everything else. It's not the standard, wouldn't think about it. So adding that kind of stuff in just adds a layer of interest and cool to me.
Even in the upper panel on that same page, I see her doing the same thing too. So I mean, it's like you said, she's given it a lot of thought. It's not just a snapshot. It's
Right.
part of the character.
Yeah, it's the character thought. Her constantly, pushing her bangs out of her face so she can see what's going on. Yeah. It makes this character have personality. She's not just, another structure in the background like a building. She has some personality. And that's what makes all the secondary characters great in these books. And in my opinion, the secondary characters lots of times can make or break a book. So, anyway, I'm still really enjoying it. Like I said, I love the panel work on it, the coloring of the panels, sets moods and tones to go along with what's going on. Just cool.
And Annie was doing the fourth issue of Archie once Fiona Staples leaves. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, because she's taking a break from this. Pia Guerrera is going to do some issues of this, which will change to some degree the way this looks clearly. I know she's coming back to this, but I know she was also taking a break to do some other stuff in the meantime. So, so that should be interesting to see exactly what her look ends up being like and whatnot. It'll clearly be different, but hopefully won't fundamentally change the vibe of the book. So.
How common is it now? We've talked about this now with several books that we're seeing multiple or different artists within same arcs. Is this something that is newer, or is this something that I just never paid attention to before?
Newer in what sense? I mean, when you say newer is in the long history of comic books, or newer is in the last couple of years?
The last couple of years at least, yeah, because I haven't been collecting very long. So
I think, like anything else, I think most people understand the bitch of consistent art and something consistent looking the same way. For DC, I think it's newer. Usually, the only time you get an artist change or more than one artist on a book is if somebody is having problems making their deadline, or it's part of the book. Like last week's Constantine, all the stuff in the past was drawn by one artist, all the stuff in the current time was drawn by another artist. So that all makes sense and whatnot. Yeah. Clearly, Marvel's been doing it for a while now because Marvel has all those books that come out twice a month or every week or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no way, since Kirby, there's not an artist that can put out that many pages in a month. So clearly, they don't care that they're changing, that they change artists between those, on one book over and over and over again. Right. It may be consistently between two artists, but I think I don't know that I can answer it definitively. For me, it feels like it's become a little more common, but most of the books that it's happening in, they're trying to do it with some level of consistency. Like, okay, we're going to 3 issues is going to be done by one artist. The next 3 are going to be done by another artist. Not like Secret Six, where it's been really spastic, like every other issue is a different artist. That's hard to, for me as a consumer, that's hard to take. I think it's kind of what Brandon was saying too, that every issue it's radically different than the last issue. That's hard. Whereas like in this Black Canary, like it's going to be like 3 or 4 issues of Annie Wu's going to do it, and then it's going to be 3 or 4 issues. So the second half of the arc is going to be Pia Guerrera's going to do it. I don't know if I have so much of a problem with that when I get multiple issues in a row of the same artist. But
so now then, having like a Capullo on as long as he is, now that's also irregular except for maybe a big name book.
I don't know, in this day and age, with the exception of like Batman, Chris Samney and Mark Waid on Daredevil for as long as they were on Daredevil, it seems like most books, an arc or 2 at best, doesn't it seem like? Before somebody changes, either the artist changes or the writer changes. Whereas it seems to me like back in the old days, you'd have, on X-Men, you'd have the different X-Men artists back in the 80s. They'd be on for 2 or 3 years. The writers would be on for 10 years, on the stuff. So I think what it is, I think more and more creative people want to be creative and less company men. And so it's more like, okay, I've done, a year's worth of this character. I'm kind of getting tired of just doing this character. I want to stretch my juices and do something different. So then they move on to a different book. I think is how some of that works out. Plus the fact you have to have a break in art duties if those artists want to have a vacation somewhere along the way, I think. So, but no, I think like Capullo on Batman is becoming more of the rarity, isn't it?
But it seems like Batman also gets a little bit of a longer leash. Like, oh, you need more time. Okay, we can delay it. Where most other DC books don't get that same leeway.
Right, because it's the big moneymaker. So it and Justice League, right, are the two books that were for the longest time notoriously the most often. But when the New 52 started out, that was part of their new marketing plan was they were not going to miss their deadlines.
Right.
Can't remember how long I don't think we made it a year before like Justice League, especially with Jim Lee on art, that it failed to make its deadlines. So yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Sure. Don't know if I really answered the question. I just know. I mean, it feels
helps
like
give
it's
me more
changed.
knowledge. Yeah.
Right. Either DC books, Brandon. You pick up any DC books that you got read? I read Son of Batman. Art still continues to be great in it. It's a fun book. It's definitely lighter than Batman and Robin was. It's I don't know if cuter is the right word that I want to use, but it's kind of.
You were watching the same video I was from Mr. DaCosta who used that word.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he said the book was cute, and Damian doesn't really do cute. So I was like, okay.
No, but see, I think he's good in this. I think it's entertaining. It's interesting to see him with a peer. I do like that because nobody's daughter is in the book, and they're kind of like a team trying to fix all the broken things that Robin has done. That's the main story here. He's going back and fixing a year's worth of damage that he did while he was graduating from the School of Assassins, basically. And so it's interesting to watch that. I like him having a peer. It's also interesting for him how much he's matured, trying to take on the role of being the sympathetic ear, maybe, or he's kind of repeating his father's words in the you don't have to walk down. He has a conversation with her about the fact that she doesn't have to walk down the same path that her father did. She can't. She clearly comes across as a good person. You don't have to continue to work your dad's assassination jobs just because they're there, kind of a thing. And so I do kind of like that and whatnot. So I'm entertained by the book. I am enjoying it. Like John said, it's clearly not as strong as when Tomasi was writing it.
Right.
But it's in a different place. He's doing a different thing, too, so I'm okay with that because it's not Batman and Robin. If this had continued to be Batman and Robin and had this kind of tone, I'd be grumbling more than what I am now. But him kind of being on his own and kind of being left to breathe and embrace this, I don't have to be this evil punk, is fun. I'm enjoying it. So I don't want to use cute in a bad way if John was using it in a bad way. It's not bad per se. So
speaking of that nobody person and good people, I know a certain good person, as in bad person, returns in that issue, and it makes me want to pick up this series almost.
Oh, shows up back up in this one? Yeah. Mom? Yeah.
I didn't want to say who it was, but okay, fine. Spoilers.
Well, I think anybody who's been following any of the Batman and Robin stuff had a sense that she was going to turn up again someplace. I mean, Roz did steal her body too, and was monkeying with it. Yeah, I'm curious. It's interesting. That part of this is really interesting to see exactly what the hell is going to happen with her.
I want to go back and pick up those issues now.
Yeah.
Almost. But it's $3.99. That hurts. But
yeah, I wish the book was $2.99. I think because it's a Batman book, they think it justifies that extra $1.
Yep.
I don't know that it justifies that extra $1. So, but Gleason does a okay job telling a story. Actually, the writing part of it too. So I'm happy with that he wasn't an artist that fell on his face, and it doesn't feel like his art has slipped at all. I know, like in the case of Tony Daniels, when he was doing Batman, and he of course did art on it for the longest time, and I really liked his art when he was doing the art while Grant Morrison was writing Batman. And then of course he ended up taking over Batman. He had to completely change his art style so he could keep up and get the book out reasonably on time. And when he fundamentally changed his art style, his art style dropped a few levels in quality, and of course his writing was never strong enough, in my opinion, to elevate the entire book back up. So everything just kind of dropped. So I did pick up Dr. Fate. All I will say about I like the cover. All I will say about it is I'm unfortunately still really not enjoying it. This issue continues to kind of spin its wheels. I don't think Paul Levitz, the writer, understands how to write a youthful kind of a book. If this is supposed to be a young adult, in his mid-20s, it just doesn't. Nothing about it grabs me, which sucks because I love the old character. I love the old Dr. Fate, and it's not a matter of the fact they changed him. I was perfectly fine with that. They just didn't do anything with it.
I read the first issue and I just felt it was like bland. It was just bland.
Yep, and that's what every issue since then has been. So, yeah, I think that's my final one, or I get one more because I think I went, ooh, first issue, and I ordered it again, and I was going to give it the second issue. Let's hope it gets better. It didn't happen. So, yeah. So that's my DC lot for the week. DC news? Anything?
Green Arrow will be wrestling Stardust. I know that that's pretty important. So.
Oh yes, for you wrestling fans out there. So is he gonna shoot an arrow in each of his knees before he
I so hope so. It'll be interesting. He is very good with his physical activities. I've seen his training, his parkour, all that. So I mean, physically, I think he's ready for it. It'll be interesting to see what he's learned and what they've trained him to do. And he showed in a video that he is going to wear his Arrow outfit. So
really,
yeah,
really, I can't believe they're letting him do that. Well, I guess maybe they just are considering it being good media for
PR
for the CW. Huh?
Yeah.
Kind of surprised that DC's letting that happen.
Funny thing I find is it's actually a tag team match. It's not a one-on-one match.
Right.
And Stephen Amell's tag team partner, his finishing move is called the Red Arrow. So I find it kind of a funny thing. That's Red Arrow and Green Arrow.
That's nice. That's funny. So when is this happening?
SummerSlam. Is that this weekend or is that?
I think it's this Sunday.
So that's a pay-per-view thing? Is that a pay-per-view thing?
But watch the YouTube because you know it'll be leaked.
Yeah, I guess. I hope. Because I'm not that kind of a fan. So, yeah. But it would be kind of amusing otherwise. Speaking of that sort of stuff, and with the Arrow show, I heard it's now been confirmed that they are going to work Constantine into the show.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, I know
one episode. Yeah.
Right. I know that he had put out that offer when they were trying to save the show. Hey, let's do the crossover kind of thing. So that's kind of cool. The two shows had completely different tones, I think, but no, it could be fun.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is I think we've seen a lot of these shows evolve because I don't think until the Flash took off they were going to do anything meta hardly. And I think that allowed them to, and now I think they feel they can go just as far as they want to.
Sure.
It'll be interesting to see how they do that. And Stephen Amell's great because, I mean, when he sees all these troubled ones, I mean, he's like, I want to go on to the Supergirl show. I want to go on to Constantine's show. Right. I don't care what network it is. I want to do this to help everybody out.
Well, I think that's great that he's enjoying his job enough that he wants to continue to franchise and whatnot, that he's not going... that he's not going, oh my God, I'm going to be typecast as this guy. I'm never going to be able to do anything ever again. That he's truly it seems to me like he's having fun with his job, and that's great to see.
He was also like a lifetime huge wrestling fan too. So it's kind of like a dream
Oh,
for him to do to be a
nice,
wrestler for a day. So yeah.
nice. Well, that's cool. That'll be fun, I guess. So, yeah. Let's see. Anything else? I can't think of any other DC news-ish
I saw a
coming
little
out
bit where they talked about continuity with Dan Didio, and
again.
yeah, and it was just another one of those reiterations that everything is out there is loose, but it comes down like you said, the core books, Batman, and then what Batman touches will be held on too tight. Everything else they can play around with, and if somebody's successful on the fringes, then they'll let them run. But
Right. I think it's a decent business model as far as that kind of thing. Clearly, the stuff that makes huge money, they're not going to let them. That you can't alter Batman, Superman. Well, I don't know. They've kind of messed with Superman quite a bit here lately, but too much with their movies and all that kind of stuff coming out. But yeah.
But then it is surprising, like you've mentioned with Batgirl, that they haven't seemed to let them go yet to run with it and give them a little more freedom to tell their story. But
Yeah, well, that's my feeling. I don't know. Maybe those creators are going, yeah, we want robot Batman in the book because we want to tell this story or whatnot. To me, it just doesn't make. It seems strange.
Yeah.
But maybe not. I mean, like I said, I'm not sitting on those editorial meetings to know for sure. I'm just taking my feelings as as somebody who's read the book, read quite a few of the books and whatnot, as to why are they. This didn't feel like the kind of story that in March when I was at Emerson Lake Comic Con and the three creators that are on that book, the artist and the two writers, were on that book. What's happening in the book now is not what I got a sense of was what they were going to tell going forward. So, yeah. Well, let's move on to independent books then.
Before we do that,
Oh, okay, sure.
I've been refreshing the YouTube page, and sometimes I get comments and sometimes I don't. I see two comments. One of them is by John DaCosta. He says, "Hi guys, glad to see the show back in action, Travis."
Hey, John.
And the other one I see is from Millie Akers. She says, "I'm reading Fables: The Wolf Among Us, and because it's released digitally first, there are 3 different artists in each print issue."
Oh, in segments. So you get like what 9 pages of this artist, 9 pages of that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which would bug the heck out of me, but I understand that.
That's interesting because the other digital stuff that I've read. Well, I take that back. I guess they were all kind of that way too, unless it was a big story that one artist was working on. Wonder Woman, Sensational Wonder Woman, Legends of the Dark Knight, when the Batman book was still around. Even the Superman book, I guess it was that way. It was little chunks, but it was little separate stories. So I guess I don't know. Is Wolf Among Us, and Millie, if you're still watching and end up answering, if we don't get to your answer now, I'll get to it after the show is over with. Is it the same story all the way through, or is it like this artist is telling this part of the story about somebody in particular and what's going on, and then the next artist is telling some other story that's different than that? Because if it's separate stories, maybe all having to do with the same thing, but separate stories, the break in artist wouldn't bother me. 3 different artists in a book. But if it's literally I'm going from page 9, page 10 continues the same script, and suddenly it's a radically different artist, that would be that would be frustrating. Yeah. Huh.
That was one of the things Bodies did amazing. It's telling an entire story, but having different artists tell parts of the story.
Well, sure, because clearly, you got told this was the timelines, and then by the time you got 2 or 3 issues in, you didn't even need to know where or what time. As soon as you saw that artist taking over, it was clearly the 1800s or the future or current times and whatnot. Yeah. So that's a great use of multiple artists on a book, in my opinion. So
yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon. All of my stuff, nothing is.
There might be more comments, but there's only 2 that are popping up for me so far. So
and like I said, it used to be that I would get fed comments to my email, and I'm not getting that anymore. So yeah, I'm clearly gonna have to do some more exploring as to how do we get comments to show up, because they're not, and that's part of the fun. So apologize once again about that. We'll hopefully get something to work. So far, I don't. Okay, so now independent books.
Yes, you are allowed.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate it. So what indie books have you guys read? What do we want to talk about?
I think we all read Wolf.
Nope, I didn't read Wolf, but you guys
Oh,
talked
you
about
didn't.
it. I don't pick up
Do
Wolf.
you pick it up?
I don't pick it up.
Oh, okay.
Issue 2. What you think, Mike?
Well, they did go back to the vampire thing.
Like they promised they would. Yeah.
Yeah, right away. That was quite uncomfortable.
So the last issue, there was this moment where some excitement happens, or somebody behind a door. We don't know what's going to happen, and then right in the middle of the story, last issue, they go, "We'll get back to that later," and then they literally cut ahead, and you just like go, "Okay, there's this piece of story. What the hell is that about?" They start this issue out, like Mike says, with the beginning of that. So picture, if you will, a Scottish vampire. A female Scottish vampire with all the speech impediments that a vampire might have with the fangs, and with a thick Scottish accent. So you're reading this, which I wasn't even sure what I was reading to start out with.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? Because it's all written just, it's hilarious. And yeah, so as a vampire, when you turn into a vampire in this, you're frozen in time. Whatever's going on with you, that's frozen in time. So if you're turned into a vampire when you've got the horribly pimply face, as a youth, you're going to always be a vampire with a horribly pimply face. It's that time of the month for this poor Scottish female vampire. So, she's having her period constantly. So it was funny. I mean, the whole it gets uncomfortable because of course all these guys, right, being macho, they think they're saving somebody. They kick in this door thinking the vampires are doing something horrible to somebody, and there she is in the bathroom, pissed as hell. They're kicking her door in. Yeah, it was, and they're all kind of like, oh, no. That's the part for me that was funny. It was just how, yeah.
It's interesting how he does like to tackle how people talk, because we also have the thug, who has a little bit of the lisp.
The Russian accent too.
Yeah, and so then he kind of, as he talks and threatens people, there's always that little bit of you trying to calculate and fill in the words there.
Right.
It was interesting to see, things like the private prison, and it's nice to have the return of Freddy Chronic. Because I instantly like all these characters, and the story is just pushing me, and I guess I'm saying I'm running along with it. I like it, because of intelligent characters and what seems to be a decently written story. That, this is definitely something I would recommend people pick up, just because it seems to be in that smart category, in a very good style, and the artwork is strong. So it sometimes it's tough on independents. You don't know, you're rolling the dice every one, and I think this is a good roll that I got.
Yeah. Colors by Lou Rich again. So it's his colors. His colors are solid. He has a way of just the color choices for backgrounds and everything help pitch the tone of the story that's being told. Right, lots of great characters, I think, in this. They're smart, they're interesting. All the secondary characters are, and stuff. We get more conversation with this little girl who potentially could be the Antichrist. There's a fun conversation they have in here about the fact that she's kind of giving him a hard time. He's like, look, you're a 13-year-old girl, you can't live at my house, and that's where she wants to live at because her parents have just been brutally murdered and potentially a cult ritual type killing, and he's like, you can't stay here because there are ideal in ghouls, vampires, werewolves, succubi, and wealthy militant races. Not everyone's like me. Not everyone likes me. I don't even like myself. And there's a pause. One panel of her just kind of staring at him, and then the next panel it's her going, "These things are real, aren't they? You're not bullshitting me." And you're like, "No, they're real." And there's just some good stuff in here. And Alex Cott is sometimes really hard to read. A lot of his stuff is kind of way out there. It's progressive. It's extremely challenging and whatnot. This is probably the most consumable stuff that he's writing currently, I think, because he writes things like Material, Zero, Change. So he's done some challenging stuff. This one, it's still smart though. We're laughing about the vampire who's on her period. Well, that thought travels through the book. I love how the first issue had these little kind of quiet things. This one they kind of hammer it home a little more. But like in the first issue, there's all this stuff that has to do with birds all the way through it. And unless you're really reading and pay attention, you might miss some of the bird references all the way through it. This one has, the 13-year-old girl that's shown up, she's on her period, ended up being on her period also, so he's got to go to the store and purchase tampons for her. In this issue, he kind of clues in on the fact that all this stuff is cycling all at the same time. What does that mean? Is this really, are we moving towards some bigger picture? And I like all that stuff. That's cool stuff.
I felt that the ending though was a little startling though, because it just kind of ended, and I kept flipping pages,
right,
expecting one more.
Right. Because you get this, talking about this personal base kind of thing right here, and I start seeing, oh wow, there's a pentagram drawn in the background there, and I'm reading this down here, and then I flip the page, and oh, we're on advertisements of other books he's written. I flipped back twice, and then I thought, son of a bitch, did I get another misprinted copy? Because my number one has the loose pages, and I thought, God, so that was bothersome. Because it literally does not end of the to be continued or it's just you're reading along and the information suddenly it just stops. So that was weird. It didn't end in a comfortable way for a single issue story. I'm sure in trade, when you get to the trade, it's just going to read right along and there won't be any break. Maybe not. I don't know. I guess we'll see next issue. But you're right. That was a very abrupt ending.
Or even the other little things like there's a couple pages that are black except for a couple letters. Back to later that night. It's not confusing. Seriously, it's not. On a Marvel book, you can't even see my letters on this one. On a Marvel book, I would have maybe tore pages out. I was a little more accepting of this Image comic. Yeah. But it is. When I get used to so many superhero comics that it's bam bam bam, here's your articles, bam bam bam, keep getting through there, and then you're done. To see touches like this in independent books starts to change my brain, I feel, or at least it starts to create a appreciation on true storytelling.
Cool. Well, the book's a success then.
Yeah. So far, yeah. I don't know that I'll read Material, but it's a start.
Yeah. No, Material's one of those books I wouldn't suggest for probably anybody to read. So, not saying don't read it. It's just I have a hard time recommending it because it's definitely more challenging. Like I said, I like the book. I like the premise of the book. I like stories told around this kind of vibe anyway. So excited for that. And I like the characters are interesting and stuff. So look forward to seeing where it goes. Yeah. So, Brandon, what did you read for independent books?
Archie.
Right on. Which issue is this? How's it going?
It's issue 2.
Fiona Staples doing the inside on it still?
This is still Fiona Staples, yep. So basically the first issue was we found out that Archie and Betty broke up. They've been together since kindergarten, I believe. Or something really, really long. They've been together for a long time, and they were almost conceived as like they were never going to split up. Nothing's going to happen. But something happened called the lipstick incident, which we still don't know what that is.
Veronica's gonna come in. Yes. Sorry.
So Veronica comes in. So basically, this issue has two sort of parallel stories. One that's following Archie and one that's following Betty.
Oh.
Archie, it seems like he is taking the breakup a lot better than Betty. He's moving on. His car's pretty much busted down like crazy. And part of the reason why he really hasn't had to save money to fix his car because Betty was his mechanic. Betty was very good hands-on that way. So we pretty much get a montage of him going through all these different jobs and basically failing in spectacular fashion in very klutz-like form. But the very last job we see him take on is him at this construction site or a construction company, and I believe the construction company is building the Veronica Lodge mansion because they're moving over to Riverdale. So we get sort of this, like, the first contact between Archie and Veronica, and it's very, very little. Like, there's pretty much just, like, Veronica, like, laughs at Archie's klutziness, and that's pretty much all that happens. But Archie's already, like, love at first sight mode. And then we move on to Betty, who's taking it a little bit worse. She's not quite over Archie, of course, because you gotta have the love triangle going on, right?
Right.
Betty's kind of standoffish. She's not quite over Archie, and basically she's trying to throw a birthday party. And through the advisement of her friends, they did not invite Archie to the party because they feel like a clean breakup is better. If you put Archie there, it's just going to prolong the pain.
Sure.
But at the end of this issue, we kind of find out, basically Archie comes back from his construction site job, and Archie's dad's there, and it's like, oh, look, your car doesn't seem to be as pooch as bad as we thought it was. And then we cut back to, like, Betty at her birthday party, and someone's like, was that grease on your hands?
Oh.
So it's like Betty's not quite over this whole Archie
Yeah,
thing.
clearly.
Archie seems to be taking it a lot better. So it's good. They're setting up the love triangle thing. What I've enjoyed about this series so far is, as I've said this before, if you read like a long time Archie, it feels like you read one Archie story, you've read them all. You kind of have, like, they always use the same tropes over and over, right? Oh, Reggie's a dick, Jughead eats too much, and it's like you know what's going to happen, sort of deal. But this has some sort of added element to it. Someone at my shop was saying it almost reminds him of Saved by the Bell a little bit, because there's elements where Archie breaks the fourth wall all the time. So there's that Saved by the Bell element to it. But
Sure.
I don't know.
Zach.
It's Archie,
Yeah.
but it's fresh.
Hmm.
And I've really enjoyed this book from both issues. They've been really, really good. Yep.
Cool. I've been hearing lots of people talk about it being good, and I probably should have gotten it just because of the Fiona Staples art, if nothing else, just to enjoy it for that. And
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been good stuff.
yeah. Cool.
You want to talk revival now?
Cool. Sure. Let's talk about. Also, Millie did answer the question. She says it's the same story all the way through. I did get the comments to pop up for a few moments anyway. So Millie says that Wolf Among Us, it's the same story all the way through it. So I don't know what I think of the idea of 3 artists on one book, with it being the same story all the way through it. That's kind of, I don't know.
Me neither.
Revival, issue 32. Issue 32.
Out of all the books I've read, this is probably my pick of the week so far. I've talked about this before. For me, I am more interested in character-driven stories than I am like more plot. That's why I have a problem with team books a lot of the time. I don't get the character as much as I would have liked.
Sure.
This was like all character-driven. Just all the emotion I got from these two sisters. This whole issue was just awesome.
Right.
I don't know, because it's almost like from the last couple issues we've been seeing Martha kind of being like almost monstrous at times. I mean, like last issue she beats up all those, like, I forget what they're called, but
the paramilitary dudes, right?
Yeah, and beating them in spectacular fashion, like just you think, okay, she's not the same person she was. And then they almost had a role reversal of sorts in this issue where it says Dana isn't doesn't have a halo over her head. She's had problems herself. So I don't know. I really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, definitely. They're to me they're the biggest interest in the book. I mean, there's lots of characters in this book, and they're all interesting in their own ways, and it's fun to kind of dip farther into all of their different things that go on with them. They do a great job. Tim Seeley and Mike Dorton do a great job of all of these characters, because there really isn't. I would guess these are the main characters if there were going to be main characters in the book, but the cast is so big and everybody gets their own light. So I don't know, but maybe the main characters. But yeah, we learn a lot about their relationship in this issue that we did not know. And yeah, it's pretty kind of awful and brutal. I mean, but you also kind of get it. You kind of get why they are where they are. It makes sense. It's like, it's tough to watch. I mean, there's some abuse and some stuff like that goes on that. But really, really good. And now, holy crap! By the end of the issue, what comes next? I have no idea. We got. How do you get away? I mean, there's a murder, right? And it's been seen. I mean, people have died in this book left and right, so it's not like. But I mean.
Well, that also is a big reason why I like this book. We finally got rid of that character.
No kidding. Yeah. So yeah, well, because he's been around for forever. Yeah. You're kind of a total douchebag, then almost a decent human being, a little weird, but almost a decent human being, and then he goes right off the deep end again, gets other people who kind of started out as, sticks up their ass kind of people, end up being decent human beings, gets them killed, I mean, so, yeah.
Just get rid of him. This was like, I was happy to see him go, finally.
No doubt. So yeah, I mean
it was even the little things with that sister thing. Like if you noticed I say the scene, but it's not really a scene. It's a comic book. But the part where like Dana comes out and confronts Em about telling on her.
Right.
Did you see what hoodie Dana was wearing?
Yeah. She's wearing this hoodie.
Yeah. So it's like either it was a hand-me-down, or it was just another sign. There's another sign that Em wants to sort of be like her older sister. It's like that was such a subtle hint. I really loved that part.
Yeah.
As well.
I don't know how much age difference there is between these two. I actually have an older sibling, an older brother, who's 6 years older than me, but I can relate to this in some sense, as much as I even to this day would like to punch my brother a lot of times. There was always some of that, I couldn't get the attention the way I wanted to, so I'd tattle and all kinds of other things. So, yeah, I mean, it was good. It's a good issue. And, that's the main thing. This, in the book, these two ladies are the main thing in it. But there's that other stuff going on, too. Back at the place where they're holding all the revivalists.
Yeah, we get a casualty, but I don't really know. I still don't know what to make of that plot point. The whole thing about Gorski and that Daredevil.
Right. So, just speculating, hypothetical, I don't know. Did they finally get the right ghosty thing matched up with the right body that when they collide with each other?
That's what I'm thinking, but I don't know.
She finally expired. But what I don't understand is she licks the wall and tastes the salt, and then of course the guy freaks out like he knows what's going to happen. So I don't know where the salt reference. I mean, of course,
some reason a couple issues ago when that ghost got the Daredevil guy, there was some link. They somehow now love each other somehow.
Well,
I don't know what that link is.
Well, I think what the link is I think that ghosty spirit thing is hers. It should be attached to her.
Right.
He ends up absorbing it. That's why he gets this personal, emotional connection with her, because he gets her, because he kind of feels her through that thing.
Right.
And so I think that's what happened is they found the right ghosty thing to match up with the right reviver person, and of course we know from prior issues that once you get found, you expire, right? That guy that was looking for his wedding ring,
right?
Once he gets reconnected, he burns up basically.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes: does the military start using it as a weapon against the revivers? Okay, let's see if we can figure out.
Probably.
So, whereas I thought they might live forever, now they might be on a very short leash, huh? It's a great book. It's got lots of complicated stuff that goes on in it. 32 issues in. I don't know that I would say it's something you could just kind of pick up and read. Lots of trades out there. Wonderful deluxe versions, I think, of it that have been printed with gorgeous covers. Try it in one of those senses because it's cool.
Like if you just picked up that issue, you wouldn't get the same emotional response you and I did.
No,
that's what I mean.
I mean, clearly, there's some straightforward stuff there. Ooh, this is a tough situation, but not having read what we've read all the way along and how these people have evolved, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Mike, got any other books?
Manifest Destiny. This is issue number 16. I cried on this issue. I should have. It's 16 issues and it's killing me. No, this one actually was a nice pickup.
They made it 10 feet up the Missouri River, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's been a struggle because it is. It's about survival of a group of people going up a river, fighting every 10 to 15 feet, sometimes getting stuck for 2 or 3 issues on just one spot. This is good. They're starting to explore the characters again. It's not just running survival. There are people. They have deep emotions. They are, it's getting back to explaining who the people are so that you care about them, and that's what I like. So it makes me feel good that this is working its way into something that I care about again. There was these little blue creatures in here that were almost like Ewoks, so I wasn't real excited about that turn. It felt a little bit like that they were just throwing this weird cutesy creature, except for that they have these horrible teeth in their beaks, and when they bite you, you get an infected cut. So you would have maybe liked this, Travis, because they find another one of those arches. It's made out of like a bone or some kind of material, and there's a monster in there, and they're looking like, well, who can fit in the tunnel? Well, maybe that little creepy prisoner, and he goes, I'm not climbing in that tunnel, and they're like, you're the smallest one, you have to go in. And another soldier steps forward who's actually a young, like, Scully boy or whatever, and so you start to actually care about this kid almost instantly. They start getting into this character. But I knew at that point, I was like, oh, he's going in, he's gonna die. But unfortunately, no. The little prisoner has once again scooted on by. But that will be a payoff. I'll make sure that I get you that issue and send it to you.
But otherwise, Blaine from Revival just keeps going on and just
it's the same type of thing. He's just an absolute incredible weaselly douchebag that you just want dead, and it never seems to be able to finish him off anywhere along the way. So
yeah, he almost started a mutiny. And for those of us that are reading it, I think it's hopefully they put or figure out a couple more high points to keep us going. It's a lot like The Walking Dead. It feels like there's too much filler sometimes in between, or at least in my opinion, that there's just you can get caught in a certain drudgery, and I feel like I'm in it until I read this issue. I feel like I'm peaking again. So
cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's working out for somebody. It just feels like it takes forever for him to get anywhere. Yeah. Let's see. I read quite a few other independent books. What do I want to talk about? Briefly, Stray Bullets, Sunshine and Roses, number 7. This issue has my favorite character and deals with my favorite character in it, a character by the name of Amy Racecar, who comes from the future, and she's like a hyper super criminal and just blows and shoots the hell out of everybody under the sun, kind of a thing.
That's that picture you posted on Twitter?
Yes, that's Amy Racecar. Love Amy Racecar, the character. And well, I don't want to say anything. For anybody who ever wants to go and pick up the Uber omnibus of this, I won't say what that's 100% about. It's awesome. It's an awesome story. Completely love it. Makes me love the character even more. In this case, it's about this girl that looks an awful lot like this little girl and this little boy, who look an awful lot like our main character and a character by the name of Monster, and this is Beth. They aren't really called that in this. And she of course is deeply enamored with Amy Racecar. Amy Racecar has a club that you can write into, and if you learn all the rules and whatnot, Amy Racecar will then mail you a certificate saying that you're an honorary member of the Amy Racecar Club, which of course is this giant murdering, crazy psychopath kind of a thing. And it's basically a story about that happening, but it's set in kind of a future world kind of a thing. It's hilarious. I laughed out loud and this is a book that normally is brutal. It has horrible stuff happening to people in it. It's kind of one of the reasons why I like it, because it's a slice of a piece of life I'm glad I don't live. But it's real enough that you might think somebody's living this kind of horrible, drug-crazed, smuggling kind of life that goes on in it. But this issue is almost pretty much pure fantasy, and it's just it's hilarious. I mean, I was in tears laughing reading the book. It was just absolutely funny as hell. So really, really dug this issue. Lots of one-line gags in it that are hilarious that work really well. And I think that comedy in comic books is really hard to do. I don't see it very often where it works, because I think comedy is kind of a hard thing to write. Either it works or it doesn't. There's no in between kind of a thing. For me, this issue was just pure gold. It was hilarious. Trees, issue number 12. Let me get the glare off it. For me personally, I think continues to be a brilliant book. Amazing storytelling art by Jason Howard. Way, way, way up on my list of when I get back to buying art that I need to purchase some of his art. It's just absolutely amazing storytelling in it. For me, the story continues to be interesting. It's not super fast-paced, but there's always something going on. We're dealing more and more with the politics around the tree that is in Manhattan. The future mayor is already buying power with the gangs and buying power with the police department, and has a personal vendetta against the police force that was around during the time when the tree first landed, because they helped kill off a bunch of people that were just trying to escape the tree. And that's interesting. We continue to have this botanist who was in Antarctic when the tree down there went supernova. She's been charged with investigating this tree that's in Britain, and this little black poppies have shown up in Britain. So very much interested to see what goes on with that story. Really, really like it. One of my favorite books, because the art is amazing and just an intriguing story of life around these trees. So, second trade is out next month, I believe. So, I suppose I should talk about this. Island, this is issue number 2. Square bound, $8. People are asking. Awesome. This is a Emma Rios cover, wraparound cover, and it is absolutely beautiful. So people ask, is it worth it? Because of course it is $7.99. It is 3 comic books plus. And when I say 3 comic books, it is 20 plus pages, each of the stories that are the 3 stories that are in here. Plus there is some other artwork in it. There's kind of just a visual story at the very beginning of these people, this giant monster. I don't know that, I think it tells kind of a story, but it's kind of cool art too. There's a lot going on in it. I've looked over the pages, half a dozen times now. Ends on this page of this.
Jeez, the detail on that art.
I know, this pile of skeletons, like in a little small cubicle, like stereotypically I envision people from Japan living in. I mean, because you can see the noodles and all the other little stuff that's there. So there's all this other little stuff amongst the actual stories that are in it. So if you figure it's 3 comic books for $8, that's what? $2.99, less than $2.99 a comic, right?
Yeah.
So if you like what's in there, that's actually a good value. I think. the first story that's in this continues a story of what's it called? It's the Dagger-Proof Mummy. Kind of on that. It's not. It's a skater girl meets this mummy who's part of an immortal force of people and whatnot. There's some cat people who attack them, and I'm not that particularly interested in that one. The second story that's in this is, I can't remember the title of it. It's clearly some sort of post-apocalyptic future type story where that kind of has to do with the haves and have-nots. There's a society of warriors that are kind of in control of everything. Habitat Part 1 is what it's called. It's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of Simon Roy is who does it. It kind of reminds me of a looser, little less detailed Mobius art as far as that goes. But it's set in this future where technology is almost completely gone. They do have a 3D printer that they use with this magic card that they stick into it. It's basically a cutout card that tells the computer to print swords. And this warrior class pretty much beats the hell out of the civilians, and there's cannibalism in it, which is always a curious kind of a thing. That's how the society operates, is under this whole cannibal thing.
The card thing kind of reminds me of Star Trek, the original series, where the replicators worked with the cards he's stuck in.
Oh yeah, kind of. See, here's the card. It's this fancy card, like the old computers that used to put the punch card into, and it would tell the computer what to make. Well, in this case, this produces this 3D cut of a sword. The kid is just indoctrinated as a lowly warrior. He ends up capturing this older guy that was wandering around out in the forest. Well, he's got this medallion that he's wearing. He ends up accidentally slipping and falling and breaking part of the medallion, and it's actually another card that has been encased in like mud to hide it. Well, he knocks the rest of the mud off. He sneaks in and he sticks the card in, and up on the screen it's all these guns and stuff. Prints one of them. They show up and they're pissed because he's producing stuff he's not supposed to. They better hand the card over. The shaman, who's in a mech suit, goes to start slapping him around. Well, he's got this thing in his hand that looks like a Star Trek phaser from Next Generation. And in the squabble, he hits the button and he nukes the shaman. Just obliterates him. Blood and guts. He's all over the place. And so now he's on the run. Yeah. Now he's on the run. But so it's really cool. It's really detailed. It's interesting. I'm excited to see what's next for it. The downside to it is it says that this is the end of Part 1, continued in Island number 5. This is Island number 2. So that's a bit rough because the rest of these stories have the skater one had an issue last issue and this issue, and then the final thing that's here is the second half to Id by Emma Rios. So it's got beautiful Emma Rios art in it. It finishes telling the story about these people who are contemplating having their brains removed and put into new bodies. And I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's all of this pinks, but the art is great. This Emma Rios art tells an interesting story. I thought it was really cool. I had kind of a cool ending to it. Some of the characters commit to having this done, and some of them don't. Some of them end up meeting back up again later on, and so that's all kind of kind of interesting. And I believe this is the end. This story ends it. It ends in kind of an interesting way. There's a burial at the end of it, and I find the burial very fascinating. The idea behind that burial is pretty intriguing. And then there's some back matter stuff that's just some interesting information about this guy who, the skyjacker who almost became a spaghetti western star. Back in 1969, a 19-year-old Marine from Seattle hijacks an airplane and takes the longest hijacking in history, clear to Italy. And when he lands in Italy, there are actually people who try to get him off from charges, and want him to star in a spaghetti western. So it's an article, which is fascinating, the whole idea of that. So it's this big long article with some interesting stuff in there about that, and so that was kind of fun, interesting back matter and whatnot. For me personally, I think it's worth the money as far as an anthology type book goes. It's got all the caveats that come along with an anthology book. Clearly that skater story doesn't interest me a whole lot, so there's 20 pages that I don't care that I would have bought. I got Dark Horse Presents this month. Also, I will be dropping that. This is going to be my anthology for sure that I'm picking up, because it's all its own stuff. Not to say that I guess someday maybe if somebody has a long story arc in here, maybe it gets collected in a trade form. But I feel like this is worth it because I'm getting a full story. Dark Horse Presents, you're getting like 9 pages of a story, so it takes you you have to buy like 3 or 4 issues of that to get a full story. What would be the equivalent of a comic book, one length of comic book, over a 5 book purchase, whereas this I get it in a couple books. So yeah, I like it.
Are you still gonna get the Vertigo quarterly?
Yes, because it's a quarterly book. It would be tough to buy a lot of anthologies if they were like this. Where it comes out every month and it's this much drop of a dime on a particular book. It would be rough. I'll keep getting the Vertigo quarterly stuff for sure, unless it really takes a drip in quality, because it's only every quarter, every 4 months I'm buying one. That to me that's not that big of a deal to purchase it under that way. But yeah.
If the island was quarterly, I would have gotten it, but because it's every month, it's
sure.
Too much for me.
Yeah, well, yeah, because.
But I can see it's worth it, but it's too much money for me.
Well, right, but you're sacrificing 3 books for one. That's it. So if it's good, it's great. It's a deal. If it ends up being a stinky month, or you hate looking at pink pages for 30 pages, then dang, it wasn't worth your money, kind of a thing. So
right.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I talk about, because I know people have been asking me a bunch about it, about whether or not. For me personally, I think it's worth it. It works for me if I count it by page count, it's not spending that much money. But it does tie up 3 books. If you're trying to limit yourself on how many, that is definitely a caveat. I did read Birthright. I won't talk about it. I did enjoy it, but there's no way for me to talk about it without, I think, messing stuff up for Brennan, who hasn't read it yet. So I still really enjoy it. Still really think the art's amazing in it. Curious to see where it goes forward. I feel sorry for this guy. I will say this: there is a team up that's going to be searching for him that I think could end up being his worst nightmare. Nothing like having your mom and your wife hunt you down, right? That would be, I don't know. For me, it just strikes me as being potentially really bad. So that was some fun stuff. I do know from reading BPRD, Hell on Earth. There's a big arc coming up starting next issue that lasts for 5 issues. Some significant stuff's supposed to happen to that. The Hell on Earth arc, which has been going on for years now, is going to end at 47. 147 not that the book's going to end then, but that's when that undertitlement's going to go away. So we'll have settled this in some sense. So I'm looking forward to that. Granted, it's a year from now, but I'm looking forward to that just to see what ultimately comes. I'm looking forward to the adventure of finding out what ultimately comes at the end of this thing. The only downside to that is that John Arcudi will no longer be writing BPRD, and he's been writing BPRD for, I don't know, 120 some odd issues, so or helping write it, and I think he has an amazing voice in the book, so it'll be a bummer to see him go, but hopefully they'll usher in somebody else awesome. But really enjoyed this issue. It was cool. As Jonathan, or Johan, I guess, he moves on to the armored outfit that used to be Sledgehammer. So now instead of walking around in a environmental suit that can be easily punctured, he is now in this giant 7-foot robotic-looking type armored shell. So he should be able to, and he's got all the powers that Sledgehammer had. So it should be really exciting because now he's kind of like Liz Sherman is in the fact that he can really put the thunder down on people. So it'll be exciting going forward.
I know they're not doing the big omnibuses anymore. Are you going to change how you collect if you purchase the sets?
So yeah, so what you're asking about is the Plague of Frogs, which was the kind of the big arc that set up the whole war that creates the Hell on Earth thing. And I went to get that in hardcovers, and of course they made new copies. They produced volume 1 and 2, and then they quit producing them. I did manage to get 3 and 4, so I'm covered as far as that goes. The only reason I bought those was because I thought that was going to be easier for me than trying to go back and buy singles. I'm enjoying reading it monthly in singles. I probably, if I go to pick up any more, I will be going backwards in the history, and I actually have all the BPRD now, either in hardback or in singles. So now it's like the Hellboy stuff, which I only have little bits and pieces of. How do I want to get it? The Hellboy stuff doesn't just come in a hardback. You can actually get it in a library edition volume. It's spendier, but it's pretty awesome. It's larger size, incredibly bound and whatnot. I know some of the other YouTubers out there, Dr. Monkey Bot and Dark Knight 4D. Is that how you say it? I think is his handle. They all have it in those library edition volumes. I'm thinking that might be how I go and get those if I go back to get those.
All right.
But I may, if I ever any place and I find like an awesome deal on back issues, I'll probably pick up back issues of BPRD and have them all in singles too. So just because I like the run enough I'd like to see all the covers and stuff. So
yeah.
I'd be inclined to get them that way also if the price was right. But, so yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I got a few other books that I don't know that I want to talk about or whatever, but
one more I can talk about. Did you pick
Sure.
up this? Did you pick up Welcome Back?
I didn't. I was on the fence when it came to ordering it, and I decided that just wasn't really necessarily feeling it.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering did I make a mistake?
I thought you were picking it up. You're going to pick it up, but then I didn't see it in your Twitter pic, so okay.
I love that cover.
Yeah, and the artwork inside is I really enjoy the artwork as well. But basically the whole premise is about these two characters who basically for an eternity have been fighting this war that's lasted for like an eternity. Basically these two characters, when one person defeats the other one who's the victor will then off themselves, and then they'll carry the war on until the next time they're reincarnated. But basically when they're reincarnated, they'll live their life for a while, and then something will click, and then they'll know that their purpose is to find this other person and defeat them. But basically most of this book is revolved around one of the characters named Mally. And unlike something like Dr. Fate, this character actually is interesting. But we really don't... The whole conflict thing between the two doesn't really take place at all until the end of the issue, where they're like, okay, we both know the direction we need to go in. But this is the type of art that was inside it, which I like. It's by Jonathan Brandon Sawyer.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed the artwork. I enjoy the concept of it. My only little issue with it, and it's not an issue yet, but it's kind of something I'm really worried about, is I don't know if this concept will be played out as well as I would want in 4 issues. I feel like that's too little of a time to flush out this concept the way I want it. But the first issue, I enjoyed it. I really did. So, I mean, I don't know.
So, do you get a sense of what they're trying to say in that first issue? Because I read the solicitations for the concept. I'm like, okay, I get the concept behind this, but so what are we trying? I mean, because lots of times these short things like this, there's a message isn't necessarily the right way I want to say that, but do you know what I mean? That it's trying to come across with something. I mean, because clearly, like in the case of like Infinite Loop that I'm reading, there's a message, there's a concept in there's the adventure and the action that's going on, but we're trying to get to something, trying to convey some thought or feeling, and I wasn't sure. I knew it was going to be 4 issues, and reading the concept, I was like, okay, so what's the? I mean, I understand the setting, but why? Why?
I'm thinking this main protagonist becomes self-aware of like this war's been going on forever, so maybe it's like changing predestined fate or something. I don't know. Like,
trying to get off the circle of.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay. The message is.
Uh-huh.
But, I enjoyed it for first issue, but I'm just
4
worried
issues,
about
yeah. It'll have to be tight, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about moving forward.
It's either has to be tight, or you're going to end up with 3 issues of loose, and then that 4th issue is going to be, oh my god, we got to finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said I really like the covers. The covers.
Yeah.
I hummed and hawed over what I was gonna. Matter of fact, I probably. I'm sure I thought I was gonna buy it, and then went back through and pulled it back off my pull back and forth a couple times. I think, as I was trying to decide.
That issue also ended on a giant what the F moment because.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I'll spoil it. I guess these 2 aren't the only 2 that get reincarnated after, because basically at the very beginning of this book we find out like this character has a dog who basically only likes her and doesn't like anyone else. At the end of this issue, she'll come back to her apartment and she'll see this little girl petting this dog, and she's like, "Well, how does this dog like you or whatnot?" And it's this little girl on the couch, and she says that she is the main character's dad, reincarnated. So it's just
wow!
What?
So it's a whole family kind of thing. Oh, okay.
So it's just like, okay.
Huh.
So it's kind of a what the F moment too, but
yeah, no doubt.
I don't know. I thought it was an interesting issue, and I do like the art, so I'll stick with it.
That's Boom? Is that right?
Boom, yeah. Yeah, Boom.
Cool. So, this is where we're going to deviate from the show, I think, in that we're going to talk about books in the last 2 weeks. Not that we're going to talk about every book, but if there's just books we feel like talking about, since how we've kind of been off the air for 2 weeks, and there are books that came out those weeks that I think people kind of wanted to talk about, and we didn't really get the opportunity to.
What, so, you don't want to talk about every book and do a 5-hour show?
Yeah, no doubt, huh? It would be that at least. So
yeah, go for the record.
Yeah, no, they'd kick us off the air before that, I think. So.
All right.
Anyway, so any books that came out last 2 weeks, they're like, damn it, Travis should have been on the show so I could have talked about whatever.
Did you pick up Beauty?
I didn't. I was actually last week. I was in a comic book store on Comic Book Wednesday, an actual full blown. I looked at all the covers. I picked the book up. The bookstore I was at had all the books bagged, and you had to ask to have it unbagged, and they were busy at the time, so I didn't want to go. Can you? So I ended up not getting it. I should have. I picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down. Couldn't decide whether I wanted to get it. So how was it, guys?
Very enjoyable. I mean, the premise is beauty is a communicable disease, and but from what I gathered, I believe there is a group that is really upset about it, and they're trying to do like activist things, or so there's a whole anti-beauty unit that has to do all of these attacks about it. Then they also find out that now people are getting like burned out from the inside out. There's a case on the subway where the person starts to combust and they burn from the inside out. It was just very interesting. I enjoyed it. The artwork I thought was very solid, and I don't know if it's set for a certain amount of issues or what, but it seems to be very well paced and powerful right to the end.
So when you say beauty is a communicable, I mean, is it really? I mean, literally, you wake up and suddenly you're getting more beautiful. I mean,
I think it's been long enough that we can say, yeah, at the end somebody turns on the light in the bathroom and they're like, fuck.
Wow, so you wake up every morning, you hit yourself in the head with a hammer a few times to make sure you
it appears like it can happen just overnight.
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought the concept was interesting. I didn't really think I liked how it was executed. Um, Basically, there's a main character, and then he's got like a partner with him, who's figuring out what to do with this beauty. The partner of the main character is beautiful, and we're thinking, does she have the beauty? We find out she does, but she sort of looks down on people who try to contract the beauty. She actually got it by accident.
Sure.
So she's living through something like that she didn't do herself. From the very beginning of this book, the main character has like a talk with his wife, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be at work for a while." And it's like, "Okay, well, when you come back." And then he makes a comment like, "Oh, you look extra beautiful today." I'm like, "Oh, great, she's got the beauty." So I was thinking while he was at work trying to figure out this beauty, he would come home and find his wife in sort of like a corpse. That's what
Right.
I was actually thinking that would be better, because now you've got two characters who have the same exact situation, because this main character has contracted the beauty as well, instead of having two characters different sort of scenarios, which I think I would have liked more. Also, because I think this is an ongoing, I know it's a miniseries but an ongoing, I don't think I would have liked them playing that card so soon. I feel like
Sure.
they should have played that a couple issues later. This is another conversation I had with Millie Akers on a private hangout. We kind of both agree. So I like the concept, but the execution I didn't really like it that much.
Right.
All right, Brendan, I guess what I was wondering is the wife. I wonder if she wants the disease, and that's why he says you look more beautiful. Like, yes, you probably caught it. You're good looking, and he
Right.
actually caught his disease from his partner,
But
and that's why he's saying, "Oh no," because his wife doesn't have it, but his partner does.
maybe I didn't read that. I
Well,
assumed that the wife did.
yeah, and I think it's tough. I think there's some vagueness about it that we'll find out in the next couple issues. But that's how I think it's happening. But I don't know for sure
Yeah,
because there is some vagueness.
I didn't take that one into account. Yeah,
All right.
I don't know. But I wasn't as high on it as a lot of other people were. That's a book that I might pick up the second issue if it's a really light week, but I don't think I am. It's a book I think I can pass on, honestly, for me, anyway.
So it sounds kind of like possibly we were talking about that it played its cards too soon. That where is that fine line between showing enough of your cards to keep us as readers excited about the book, so you don't have a slow first issue or whatever, versus putting
Right.
too much out there too soon?
I don't think it played all its cards. I'm just saying I don't think that's a card that should have been played so soon. But
Wow.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion.
I would agree with you if it ends up being that way. I guess maybe that's why I read it a little differently, and that's why I'll pick up at least a second or third. So.
All right. Well, you can keep me up to date then.
Yep.
Right on. Either of you guys read the Fade Out?
No, that's where we need Luke.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will hold off on talking about that until sometime when Luke is on, because I know he's been reading it. And I need to go back. After you read this issue, they kind of say, okay, now this is the end of the second act. You kind of maybe should go back and reread all the issues again, because they're written for multiple reads, and we don't want you to miss some of the stuff that's coming up. So, and I know that Luke has very recently read them all, so I was going to pick his brain, as opposed to me being lazy and not going back and read them all myself. So I will read them all. Yes, I will read them all myself and have that conversation with him at some point. Cool.
Yeah.
But it's been lots of fun. That's for sure. That's for sure. Any other books?
Are both you guys reading Airboy?
I am.
I'm not. Travis.
All right. So I definitely think his traveling to World War II, or their interpretation of World War II, was a fun take on it. I mean, I think that's what it needed to keep it kicking and running. They seem to drag their own personal tragedy into his life and are now shaking up his world. So I like that it was the twist carried on just perfectly. It wasn't too much, and it seemed that it, how they carried through with their art, with, it's just a story that I think keeps adding one level to the next.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I was very happy with it, and I was, you know, I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there. I mean, it still has strong sexual content. It is very adult, and they are trying to push it right to that limit. So it seems like it's been very good, but I could see people can pick it apart or have issues for lots of reasons.
Sure. Okay. Brandon, did you read Starve?
That's what I was just about to pull out.
Okay. Issue
This,
3?
this was my pick of the week from last week.
Oh, such a good book.
Yeah. Um, ex- Even at the beginning, with it set the tone so well. The scene where the daughter tells Gavin to make her some eggs. I love that whole section of the book. I thought it was a good tone setter for the rest of the book.
Yep.
And this is another book that's kind of got two elements to it. You got the one side where Gavin wants to take his show back and with his own agendas and stuff, but now you got this father-daughter sort of tandem that's going on right now, sort of spiting the wife, um, which I kind of like. I like, again, it's the character story that I sort of draw to. And I think I like that element even more, and that issue gave it to me. Um, I thought it was a really cool concept because basically that issue, the whole episode involved a sous chef, and instead of using this one character we talked about last issue named Dinah or Dina or whatever,
Something like that, yeah.
he decides to use the daughter, which I thought was pretty interesting as well. Not only and it's funny, it's like, I can use it to play up the judges, but I can also piss off my wife. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's such a different book than a lot of the other stuff that's out right now. It's one of the things that really intrigues you about it, and that whole concept of the fact that he's come back and he just kind of wants to take the show back, but he also wants to destroy the show. He wants to destroy the 1%. Because he just kind of thinks all of this, the whole thing is vile, and he's got this giant kind of political agenda about you know wrecking his ex-wife and wrecking the ex-partner and sticking it to the 1% and all of that. And at the same time, he's now got himself, he's back. There's his daughter. His daughter seems very, that he clearly didn't, while she's a young adult, while she was growing up, he potentially was involved at some point. Clearly, we learned that from this latest issue. That he used to cook her breakfast, and before he was big and all that kind of stuff. But clearly, he's trying to make up for lost time with her, and so that becomes almost more important. And is she going to be the Achilles heel? Is she going to be, I'm thinking going forward, is she going to end up being the thing that ends up wrecking him? He gets, because he does this show, and by the end of the show, I don't know that he cares whether he won or not. It doesn't matter. He's had this experience with his daughter that he loved. It's important for him to win the show. He needs to keep winning to keep going forward. True. But he just kind of walks off. And I mean, part of it's showmanship, but part of it was, I just don't care. I don't care if I won. I had this wonderful experience. He kind of loses focus. He's got his daughter there, and he gets focused on that, which is important, clearly. I mean, in a person's life, your children are important. But he loses focus of this kind of bigger agenda of why he originally came. And I just think that's really great and interesting stuff to see what happens. What you can just see this kind of this balancing thing going on here. If he goes too far, daughter, is the whole other part of it going to come completely apart? And if it comes completely comes crashing down around him, is that going to create a situation that he can't continue with his daughter being suddenly broke and all that stuff?
And the daughter isn't just there for added things. Like she also is there to win the show too. She says, like, you can only go so far with your theatrics. You actually have to cook food at some point.
Right.
And basically she's trying to reteach him a love for cooking or whatever. And it's like, all those elements together, it just makes that tandem so great.
Yeah, yeah. It was really, really, really good, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody here reading Catwoman?
I still haven't read that issue. I'm so behind on Catwoman. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Well, get back to me when you've read it, because there's no way. The parts I want to talk about are heavy spoiler if you haven't read it. There's some accidents. Some accidents happen in that issue that are pretty are pretty traumatic. So let's just briefly talk Injection, unless you don't want to talk Injection.
Well, I can't really talk about it because it's not fair to me to review a book that I only read halfway through.
Oh, we're not reviewing it, but you can talk about it. The fact is, you only made it half of the book because you just don't give a crap, right?
No, the thing is, there are books where, I mean, I'm not one that wants to be held my hand the whole way through, but there has to be things that I feel like that make me want to find out the answers and all that. And I feel like at the end of the day, none of these characters I really care about, except for Maria Kilbride. She's kind of got a quirkiness to her that makes me like her a little bit. But outside of that, the other characters, I don't feel like I have any connection to them. So that's why I just don't feel the need to find out the answers. So I just fell off it. I just quickly got bored of it. I was I'm halfway through, and I'm like, I'm not getting anything out of it. So I don't speak for everyone, but that's just how I feel about it.
Well, sure. And that's cool, because you're right in the sense that the book is probably... Mike, did you read this?
No, that's the one that at my store got sold out.
Okay.
But that's all right. I'm getting caught up. So.
Okay, I won't talk about it in great detail. But you are right in a way, Brennan, and in that book, it's more situational than it is character, right? I mean, it's more about the situations that are happening than it is the characters in particular. And that doesn't change by the end of the book. I really liked this issue. I liked this issue a lot because for me in this issue, by the time we got to the end of the issue, to me it felt like it gave us a clear guideline, maybe not exactly what the hell is going on, but a much clearer guideline of what has been going on to put these people kind of where they're at right now. To deal with whatever this mystery situation that's happening, the fairies that are in the rock or whatever the hell is going on. And so, whereas lots of books like with Starve and whatnot, I love the book because it's about these characters, it's about their personas. Because I personally don't give a crap about food. Food doesn't interest me in any way whatsoever, so reading a book about a cooking show is the last thing I want to read as far as that goes, but the characters that are there, the character-driven of the story makes it really, really interesting. For me, Injection falls on the other end of the spectrum of the characters aren't heavy, but I like the concepts and the ideas and the weirdness that's there. That's just stuff I like, and so I'm enjoying the hell out of that book for those aspects of it. The fact that there's all these, things that go bump in the night or whatever, and there's this group of people that have been gathered together and don't know how to... Basically, in this issue, what it comes down to is all these characters that are in it. When they were younger, they were part of basically like a government think tank. They're all brought together with their specialities and whatever to have a conversation about... They were supposed to kind of forecast what the future was going to be. What's the future for a man going to be like? What's going to be out there? And they did all this extrapolating and figuring out, and they're sitting around eating lunch one day, and they all come to the conclusion, you know what? The future is going to be boring as hell. Nothing's going to really happen. We're not going to move forward. We're not going to push near the singularity that everybody talks about. We're just going to be stagnant as stagnant. Well, none of us want to go into a future that's going to be that. So they did something. The big reveal is they did something. They don't say what it is, but they imply that somewhere along the way they decided, you know what, we don't want stagnant, boring future, and they did something. And whatever they did, now they're all, especially the what's her name, the sandwich lady.
Maria Kilbride or whatever.
Mayor Kilbright, she feels extremely guilty, and so she is driving herself to the brink of insanity, going and fixing all the crap that somehow they broke somewhere. They basically turned on, broke, or what, we don't know yet. And to me, that intrigues me. It intrigues me the idea that there was this think tank of geniuses. They went, oh man, the future's going to suck. And so they decided to do something about it. And whatever they did has caused a whole lot of problems. And so now we're going to see those problems. So I'm hoping with this big reveal that we'll start getting more about these characters. But by the end of the issue, I feel like we're starting to learn more about her anyway. Hopefully we'll get more development out of the other. There's a car ride where we start to get a little development between the computer woman and the kind of espionage spy guy. We get a little
bit
at
the beginning of the book, which I read. Yeah.
Yeah. Start to get a little bit of character between them as to who they are and maybe how they tick a little bit. But you're right. That's a fair criticism, though, that the characters aren't extremely depthy for us to be invested in them personally. I'm invested in the idea, the concept of the book, with the whole reveal of this potential destiny of the future. So it made me excited. Any other books you want to talk about? I have to actually go back and look. I know there were books I was excited about, but
I was just going to talk real quick about Gears and Bones. Just because this is from Guardian Knight Comics. It was $2. So of course for that reason that's why I picked it up. Number one, $2 issue. When you get these books like this, it's on the cover. It is a rabbit who has a handgun and a sword, and so to me it plays along the lines of the Conan, the Rat Queens, the Autumnlands, Tooth and Claw, and it's always a dice roll on these, and on this one I hit craps. They appeared to only have added animals just to make it different, and it wasn't a strong enough kind of story. It's a little steampunk, it's a little anamorphic, and neither one really added to the story enough to cover up the little plot issues. So, I missed out on Tooth and Claw, because I felt it was going to be one of these, and so it is. When you get Independence, unless you dig and get a lot of knowledge, I feel sometimes it's a crapshoot, and this is definitely crap. So.
Happens that way sometimes, unfortunately, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a running pattern with me and character stories. 2 weeks ago, my pick of the week was a gut punch of a character story in Wiccan Divine, number 13.
I was just gonna ask if you were caught up on that.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
What an issue that was. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So we focused on this other member of the Pantheon named Terra, and she goes through some harsh stuff. And I think it works so well is because you can just play it into regular time right now, because I know there's a lot of women who go through that too. Basically, she's someone who feels like she's only there to please others. Like, there's a scene where she's just walking down the sidewalk, and you got these two jocks in a car, and one's like, "Show me your tits," and it's like, "Oh, okay," your usual stuff, right? And she's playing in a bar, and then the character who basically like inducts people into the Pantheon comes in and inducts her in, and even in her godlike state, she's still being attacked. And some of the stuff, like, they have like a whole double-page spread of like all the tweets sent to her, and they don't hold anything back in those tweets, in those 2 pages. And it's just, I don't know, it hit me huge. I know so many people go through stuff like that on a regular basis, and just, I think Kieran Gillen tried to send that message home in this issue. And I think Tula Lotte's artwork was fantastic in that issue too. I love her artwork so much.
Yeah, same.
It was just another great character-driven story. Again, I guess I'm a running record with that. I guess those are stories that I tend to latch to, but that issue was leaps and bounds probably the best issue that week, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was very, very good. The whole idea of the fact is that she basically goes through life as this, she's an extremely attractive woman, and really feels like that no one's listening to her and her voice and what she might actually have to say, because she's a bunch of eye candy and whatnot. So she adopts to wearing a mask and gets really irate if people aren't listening to her actual words and what she is trying to say. I mean, even when, like Brennan said, when she gets inducted into the godhood and has her powers and whatnot, people are just there at the concert to get this heavenly rush that these gods can put out, this rush of feeling. She doesn't want to do that. She wants to go and perform and actually perform as a person, not as this deity. And that's why she's getting this bombarded with these horrible tweets and whatnot, because she's holding out. She's a bitch because and that's being polite, because she's not giving these people what they want. Give it to me, basically. And so she's awful. And yeah, I mean, her choice as to how to fix it is pretty brutal and somewhat factual for people's response to that, and then the community's response to that is pretty horrific too, and I think fairly factual also. For about 3 seconds after the things have been done, people are like, oh hey, and then immediately the ugliness starts again. So
and I think it's like unlike the rest of the Pantheon, because in the first issue they showed like all the people sitting around a table, right? She didn't choose it. She just came up and just gave her this. It's like she didn't choose to be like that. She never chose to be this god deity sort of
right
power.
Right. Be curious, this was issue what? Do you remember what issue that was?
13, I think.
13. For what they have projected out for how far this is to go, this is like what, the third or fourth Pantheon member gone now? Of course, one of them I don't know if they counted because they really weren't part of the Pantheon for more than a few seconds. But it seems to me like we're getting a lot of skulls sitting around the table. So
there's 3. What was the 4th one? I can't remember one of them.
Because is the Morgan gone now too?
No. She was just beaten up, but she's not gone yet.
But they didn't actually take her out. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious as to you look at the longevity of what they think, how long it's going to last them. I'm really enjoying these kind of one-shotty kind of stories. I wasn't sure what this year worth was going to be like as Jamie McKelvey, the regular artist, is taking a break while he's doing the next arc of Phonogram. What it was going to be like to have these guest artists drop in for stories, how much it would feel like the story would be interrupted, and right now it doesn't feel that way. I mean, it still feels like the stories we've read so far are very concrete into what's going on right now. So I think that's been kind of cool.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know all the artists that were supposed to be involved in this sort of carousel, but when Tula Lotay showed up, she was the one I was definitely looking out for. So when this issue came out, I know this is her issue, I was looking forward to it because of that too.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like the next issue, I believe, is by the artist for Shudder. So I'm curious to see what she does in that book, because her style isn't glossy, and to me, McKelvey's, even though his stuff is simple, has a glossy feel to it, and so does clearly Tula Toys is very glossy in her style, and De Conta's is not. So I'm really curious to see how her art translates in an issue. I'm curious to see what that's going to be. So I'm always looking forward to that book, though. That book's just generally firing on all cylinders most of the time. So lots of great books. I end up talking about all of them if I sit here and look at it too hard.
That's a problem.
I'm still really digging Midnighter. I just kind of like where that story's going. So I'm going to keep talking about it to some degree. I think we're still bouncing around on issues as far as art goes. We kind of discussed that, and I do think that the stronger issues are the ones that ACO or ACO or however you say ACO is doing. Those are the stronger issues, I think. But I'm still really liking that book. It's got enough stuff going on, to be interesting. Clearly a gay character, but be treated like a person as opposed to the spectacle of being a gay character, which of course I expected that to be the case with it, being written by a gay author. So I think that works perfect. None of that part of it feels awkward whatsoever. So good for DC. Good for DC for having that, and having the right kind of people on it to do that. Clearly, if you don't like violence, it's not a book for you though, because he absolutely pulls no punches. He gets in a fight with what's the character's name? Multiplex.
Oh yes, yeah.
He's like a Flash, right? He's a Flash villain, and also I knew him as a Firestorm villain, but I think he was a Flash villain first, where he can multiply himself is a billion times. And Midnighter's like, oh my God, this is like Christmas and a wet dream all in one, because he just gets to beat all of these guys to death. I mean, there's just hundreds of them, and he is just in a giant pile of bodies that he is just absolutely wrecking, and it is just the best thing ever for him. So, and it's all cool and fun, along with the greater story of the fact that there's somebody out there who has a file. He doesn't know his past and who he was before he got kind of turned into Midnighter, and he doesn't care, except for there's a file out there that somebody stole that tells his story before he was Midnighter, and he needs that. The idea that somebody else knows who he is and he doesn't know who he is really freaking him out, and he has to find that and get to the bottom of that. If it didn't exist, he wouldn't care, because he is who he is now, and it doesn't matter. But the idea that somebody else might have it is really bothersome to him and whatnot. So I like that aspect of the story. It's been pretty cool, pretty interesting. So. And
there was more about him and Apollo. Was that the guy who was from the previous?
Yes. Right. Yeah, you get to see more of their breakup, why they walked away from each other. So you picked up the issue, Mike?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I like you said, I love ACO's artwork, and and I guess I wasn't expecting so much Punisher out of it, because it does feel that way. I mean, it's
right. Oh, yeah.
Because it's it's space and then it's Punisher, and I'm processing that. I guess I'm not as acceptive of my big two books as I am my independents.
Oh.
I put too much, of myself on what I want or what I think I'm going to get out of it. And I think that's what's holding me back. I might not pick up the next issue. I may wait and hear if the art continues to be flaky or how the storyline goes.
Sure.
So, because, the initial one I liked, but I guess I just didn't know where it was going. So.
Sure. Cool.
Yep. And that was coming in not knowing anything about him either. So.
Right. Any other books the last couple weeks you want to talk about?
Another book that I'm not staying with, I'm dropping, and you two are probably going to be the guinea pig for it, unless you two are dropping it too. It's Green Arrow. It's just uninspiring. I didn't like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
That whole arc was not very good, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, it was flat. It was very flat.
Yeah.
And I don't understand what's up with killing all of your villains. And that's the thing I've seen that I think more and more. Is that it always seems now that they're killing every villain, so that this is not going to be a reoccurring character. Him and the Bleach supremacist, they're gone, and it was like there's no payoff on it.
And they spent so much time with the pale guy that he just went, he's gone. It's like, well, what's the point of wasting so much time on that guy? Did that Emmy character feel a little bit like Kate Bishop?
Yes.
It's like that too kind of bothered me. It's like I'm reading this book better in Hawkeye. I like Kate Bishop better, so that's another reason why I'm kind of like.
Yeah, I liked that character originally, and I was kind of curious to see the struggle of of having this new young, sister who, kind of is in the same boat as the Damian Wayne, been trained to be this. Now we've got to acclimate her to this. and she was kind of a pale version of that. Still, I mean,
Yeah.
she's totally acclimated clearly already. You know, seems to be higher functioning than most of the adults, right? You know, so yeah, that aspect was unfortunate. You're right though. Uninspiring is probably the best description for it. I'll probably hang around for a while longer because I'm just a really big Green Arrow nerd, and it's not awful.
Yeah.
I read New 52 when it started. That's awful.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I dropped the book, then. So you know, I will probably hang around for a while longer to see if maybe they get their groove and come up with something that's actually interesting and whatnot. And then I'll decide whether or not it's on the bottom end of things to drop if I need to start dropping stuff for other stuff. But like I said, because I'm a Green Arrow fan, it'll hang around a lot longer than what it should at this state. But it is the perfect thing. The killing of villains, because these villains don't matter. That's why they're getting killed off. Because I think lots of people always complain, oh, superheroes need to kill more people because that'd fix the problem, kind of a thing. And so so let's just, they're villains of no consequence. So let's just kill them off, because chances are, even if they didn't kill him, you'd never see him again anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I'd like to see them slowly build some of these up, make them better. But like you said, they're really shallow characters for villains. I also feel like they aged Emmy, and because they didn't know how to write a good Damian aged girl, and I don't think that they wrote a very good older aged Emmy either. But
right, she definitely is. Acclimated and climatized to her environment, and like I said, adjusted extremely well, as opposed to what us who have been reading it for quite some time. We all know she came from, not to say that she was uneducated, but clearly heavily indoctrinated in the Arrow clan, and this whole tradition, this whole kind of, I don't know, warrior, samurai, whatever you want to call it, with bows and arrows. We were all given the impression that she was kind of simple about a lot of stuff, and at the age she was at, it was much easier to black and white stuff and go, I have to avenge my father, I have to do this, I have to do this, and good story would have been us getting to see her and Ollie slowly work through all of that, them being, now they act like they've been brothers and sisters from birth, the whole, you got to stay home and do your homework, and that whole, it just seems very, very casual. And granted, I didn't read the book for a while in between there. I know, Mike, you did to some degree, but I'm assuming we didn't get any character development to show her.
No, she was dropped when the Arrow TV show writers got in there. I mean, they really dropped it, and I think that's what inspired me. Is it looked like they were touching back to Lemire's stuff, and older stuff. So it really felt like they were going to do more duty to this book.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'll hang on to it, but uninspired, that's the perfect description for it, for sure.
You guys can tell me about that book then, too.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Anything else? Any other books you want to talk about?
Just real lightly, Secret Wars, it continues to be a strong, Ribick's art is great. The story keeps flowing well. Stephen Strange has been killed, and now the Fantastic Four children, Doom killed him because he resisted Doom. So the Franklin and Valerie Richards are trying to seek out who killed him. So it's going to put them in conflict with Doom, who's hiding, and then there's a lot more about the world building. So you really have to be into the story to kind of keep going with it. And then the Red Skull second issue, it's out of 3. The artwork I didn't think was fantastic, but what keeps me going, Mr. CDC mentioned, the coloring. They really make it pop. They really make it stand out. And so for that reason, a lukewarm story seems to be running a little warmer because of that. So
cool.
And it's 3 issues, so I'll pick up 3 issues. So
right.
almost starting to feel more like a Magneto book since they brought him in too. So
Oh. Mm-hmm.
if it ends up with a good ending, I'll let you know, and maybe something you can look back at if you can find it cheap somewhere.
Oh, it'll show up in a 50-cent
Yep.
bin somewhere at some point, right? So,
Yep.
right on. So, what do we got coming out next week that might be interesting?
Well, for you, Hellboy in Hell comes back.
Yes, finally. Yeah, looking forward to that. Anytime I can get Magnola done, Hellboy, I'm all over it. So that'll be exciting.
Honestly, it's not a really big week for me. They're Not Like Us is coming back too. That one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. East to West comes out again finally. Looking forward to that. I think Rumble's back. Looking forward to that too. Like I said, I think the final issue of Magneto comes out. Low is back.
Final issue of Spider-Woman too.
Final issue of Spider-Woman, right? Yeah.
Which I'm still not sure if I'm picking up the relaunch. I'm still up and some days I wake up and like, yeah, I'll pick it up, and other days I'm like, no.
Yeah, those kind of things. I don't know yet either. It hasn't come up on my order yet for to be released. So I've got a while to think about it, I guess, before I have to decide one way or the other. Grayson comes out next week. Also, looking forward to that. Get another issue of Gotham by Midnight, which I've been enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then some books I'm maybe not looking forward to. So, We Are Robins. I'm getting an issue of that. I haven't been really excited by that. So
That's the other reason why I'm kind of I'm picking up Robinson of Batman because it's doing that crossover thing.
oh yeah, that's right. That's coming. That's gonna be.
I know, that's why I'm just like,
Yeah. Well, this issue of Robinson of Batman was kind of cool. I'll let you know if more of it ends up having her in it to be actually worth picking up to look at. If that's why you're interested. Yeah, I don't know how much they're actually going to mess around with her or not. So. I don't know.
Yeah.
At any rate, anything else we want to talk about? No. Okay.
No.
Well, I think.
There's other things we could talk about, but we don't have to.
What's that?
Well, I mean, we could talk about Batman, but I feel Luke should be here for that.
Yeah. I still have mixed feelings on the whole Batman book. So, the Bruce Wayne reveal stuff, kind of, I don't know.
I didn't like the invention part of that book, but anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of
Can you say plot convenience? But anyway.
for sure. Yeah, I think we'll call it a night.
We can call it a night.
We done a night. Appreciate you guys coming and talking books. I miss talking books with people. 2 weeks is too long, I think, for me to be gone from yakking books and whatnot. And, hopefully be back next week to talk about the books we talked about were coming out. And I will try and do some investigating between now and next week to see if I can figure out a way to get a better feed of comments, because I know there's some out there, but probably haven't seen them all. So, at any rate, thank you all for who hung around and watched and did comment, and thank you all for those of you who will be watching in the future and commenting. Hi, Mercy, for when you get to the end of the show. And I'll be back next week anyway. Hopefully some of the rest will be back too. Have a great night, everybody.